What? Am I the only one here who is tired of this shit? There, no more cameras in this restaurant. How do you like that?
That's it. You have gone too far, Taylor. No more food or water.
What?
You will recognize this motive from Chapter 4 of Danganronpa 2, except instead of locking the contestants in the Strawberry and Grape Towers, they're kinda just left their existing resources. The contestants still have plenty of food and begin rationing it while also hunting for food sources on the island, so the motive isn't all that strong. Harrison gets furious during the phone call with the De Winters, tells the sisters that he refuses to play their game, and smashes all the cameras in the restaurant. This is the start of a boycott, although the purpose of the boycott isn't really made that clear. Harrison says that it's about refusing to give the producers what they want, but for some reason not every character is part of the boycott, even though none of them give them what they want. Namely, a murder. Most contestants who join require a surprising amount of persuasion to do so, but pretty quickly you get a handful of them on board. The day that the cameras were smashed, Sasha notices the producers come back during the night to place new ones, which they then smash themselves. They assign Annika the duty of being their human security camera now. Thanks to her perfect memory, she's able to identify anything different in the restaurant from one day to the next, meaning that she can identify any newly installed cameras that need to be smashed. Around this time, Francisca reveals that her baby has been kidnapped, and not long after, Valerie manages to snap a photo of Naima on the military base carrying the baby around for some reason.
Behold what I have captured with my phone.
The military base?
Yeah, yes, but look closer.
What am I looking at?
You're shitting me.
I don't think that's Annika cleaning the yard.
Wait, what?
Prepare yourselves. Zooming in, you can see.
Naima?
Mere mortals after all. I knew this to be true. Nothing escapes Varizel's divination.
Totes not true, but like awesome sauce news. If they're here, means we can make them take us home. Yes!
Look in the picture. What is she carrying?
I've been hiding something from you.
Donna.
What you saw in that photo, the bundle in Naima's hands, it's my daughter. It's my Joanna.
Daughter?
Sei una madre.
Huh? A kid?
Shut up! I can't!
Let her talk.
See, they've been holding her hostage from the very start.
Hostage?
That means you knew what was happening from the very start.
They had her. I couldn't do. I'm so sorry for hiding.
Fucking bastarde. Using a kid as leverage. Ripugnante. Pezzi di merda. Figlia di puttana.
Gio!
No one's mad at you, Chica.
Thus, they've got a new goal: break into the military base and find Joanna. Sasha leads the charge on this, and before long they break through the electrified fence and into the base, although they don't find too much immediately. Sasha does find a computer with a password, and you have to give them a few days to figure out how to crack it. During this time, pairs of contestants are always outside the gates on guard duty to make sure nobody sneaks back in to put up cameras or booby traps to punish them. Eventually, Sasha creates a way to bypass the password by stealing the puzzle minigame from Harrison's original C-Can, and setting it up so that completing the puzzles tricks the computer into thinking the password was input correctly. Thus, you are finally doing more puzzles.
So, that puzzle machine can do what exactly?
Ever heard of eSTEM? It can give inputs to G-Spot.
Give inputs?
Actually, this machine can only send out a Boolean. Pressing enter sends out a piece of data, that being a Boolean. Information about if the passcode was right or not. True or false. Now here comes the kicker. If you solve a puzzle with this machine, it will send out a piece of data too.
A Boolean? More specifically, true?
Yes! We hook this baby up to terminal spot G, and instead of typing a correct passcode...
We solved the puzzle!
And we have snuck into the swingers party.
These aren't difficult puzzles, they're just the same typical connect the pipes hacking minigames you've seen a million times before, but at least there's something. Once completed, a secret passageway is opened and they get access to a map of some sort, revealing to Sasha and Harrison that there's tunnels underground. Then, suddenly, a fire alarm goes off. Sasha grabs Harrison and quickly tells him their plan before demanding he run away. He gets to the gates just in time to meet Ava and Dawn before the base blows up, presumably killing Sasha.
Blimey! A fire alarm? Now? Come on, Sasha! We need to move!
Harrison, listen carefully. This is gonna be a gamble, but I need you to do the following.
Hi, pal! Dan! Ava!
WTF is going on?
A fire broke out somewhere. Where's Sasha? They're coming soon. said they have to take care of something first. Ah! Ah!
At least in the eyes of the others. The Harrison knows that Sasha set up the explosion to fake their death, and maintains the lie to the others so that Sasha can infiltrate the staff and work to help them from the inside. The fact that this somehow works with nobody questioning how their staff grew by 1 on the same day that a contestant seemingly died without a body ever being recovered is stupid, but whatever. The cast also starts receiving food again because a contestant has died, and the initial implication from the producers is that they were murdered rather than just dying so as to implicate Harrison. However, Harrison basically just says, "Trust me guys, I definitely didn't do it," and everyone believes him, so they move on. Sasha also leaves Harrison with the skeleton key, which he uses with Dawn, Annika, Francisca, and Mia to break into the underground tunnels and hunt for Joanna. Eventually, the producers agree to hand over the baby in exchange for the skeleton key, which the group accepts.
Doesn't it just make your butt clench? So no funny business! I know how to use this, and I am super pissed!
I'll have you know this is very poor entertainment. Joanna, don't worry, Mommy is here.
Oh, it's not her who should worry.
Your cowardly weapons are no match for our bravery.
Give the baby to Francisca!
Well, before that, Contestant Taylor, that device of yours, it is a major inconvenience to us. We demand that in exchange for the baby.
Huh?
But
No way!
The Tablet of Knowledge is the skeleton key between the worlds. Its value is surely...
Very well.
Alright, I guess now I understand why that guy is similar to Gundam. I just need some magical hamsters.
Sis, that was totally uncalled for. And a lie. Father has never hit Mother.
Yeah, just wanted to say something twisted. Thought the laugh wouldn't fit otherwise.
Now you're part of the bargain.
Yes, here.
Joanna,
Lately been much more of chore than I find tolerable.
think that next time before you take someone's child for this.
Francisca gets Joanna, they begin fleeing, but then Naomi goes insane and starts trying to kill Harrison with her Uzi. Mia tackles Harrison to the ground, saving him but catching a bullet in the attempt before Naima stops her sister from killing them all.
What a cheeky little boy. Under other circumstances.
Nerda! Fuck! Fuck!
Velocinistaco says.
Wow.
Curse you streaming when I can't watch. I don't even have audio D.
What are you even doing?
Watch out!
Ouch! Mia!
They rush Mia out, Lumi tends to
Velocinistaco says.
generally pretty happy.
I'm
Everyone
off
except
to
for
night
Gio
watch.
joins up with the
Talk to you
boycott at this
later.
point. Except, again, not really clear what the boycott actually means beyond what everyone's already doing, but whatever. At this point, Mia and Lumi also begin dating, and Lumi reveals that she's asexual. Soon, however, the next motive is revealed. They're all going to have an awful secret of theirs revealed to the whole world unless somebody dies. Again, you will remember this motive from Trigger Happy Havoc Chapter 2 because this game cannot do a single original thing. However, what happens here is that, after a brief moment of panic, the characters all agree to sit down together and expose their secrets to one another, thus taking away their power. That is, except for Gio, who agrees to listen but not share because it would ruin his family. We're so close to getting to that pin. So, instead, we start with Harrison. His secret is that as a child, he was a math prodigy who got into university early. But then the pressure got to him, he performed poorly on a test, and there was apparently such a scandal that the local papers even wrote about it.
In uni, I failed an important exam. A single whisper was enough to start a rumor. Been called cheat, fake, fraud.
So as a result, he cheated to ensure he did well the next time and got away with it, but the sisters seem to have found out somehow. Lumi believes her family might have committed fraud with their businesses.
Being found out could lead to massive fines, or even their deportation as they are not citizens of Finland.
Valerie planted her earrings in a maid's purse to get her fired as a child.
I was a child. There would be no repercussions for my actions by law. But the media, on the other hand...
Isaac owes some money to some old friends and has been running away to avoid getting, hurt or killed by them since he can't pay them back.
I trust there will be someone here who may yet help me, for I am certain they will find out.
Mia lost her job for hitting a man with a keyboard after he sexually harassed her.
He was harassing me. Did horrible things, even tried to force himself on me.
Ani witnessed her boss beating his wife and was threatened into keeping it quiet.
Annie was told to lie about it to the police. Annie was told that Annie will not be Annie anymore if Annie tells.
Don spent most of his childhood very sick and didn't become a cycling prodigy until much later in life than the media believes.
As a kid, I couldn't even walk. I had a surgery that changed my life. There are lots of stories of how I was cycling even as a toddler. I feel bad I didn't say otherwise.
Ava's
The
father
Loch
divorced her mother
says,
to be with her mother's best friend.
Thank.
Tried so hard, but like he didn't care about me either. I'm his daughter.
And Francisca's daughter was conceived during a one-night stand with a man whose name she doesn't even know.
I lie to friends and family and say that our relationship is difficult. They would be so disappointed if they found out.
These secrets, in general, are ones I can understand the characters wanting to hide, but really aren't murder-worthy. As far as killing game motives go, this is honestly pretty weak. Certainly weaker than starvation. However, we haven't gotten to our final one yet. Geo. Actually, you know what? This needs its whole own separate tangent. Part tangent Geo, I guess. I don't know.
I can't share! You don't understand what it would mean for these to be public! I can't risk that they might let my secret loose in the real world! I can't!
Giovanni, wait!
You could, Ayo. That could have gone better.
Is it because Gio doesn't trust us?
I want to talk with him. Alone. I'll be right back.
Throughout the game, Gio has been the poster child for toxic masculinity. He's transphobic towards Sasha, misogynistic towards Francisca, Annika, and Mia, and is generally just a massive raging piece of shit towards anyone who even hints at anything that might threaten his masculinity. In the suspicion route, he's killed for basically just being too Catholic for Isaac's taste, and in the greed route, he kills Harry, Francisca, and possibly Dawn for getting in the way of his mafia. He is a piece of shit through and through. However, throughout the game, there's also been another thing at play, namely, Gio acting a little bit fruity. He wears tight Speedos, he's constantly trying to get naked with Harry in the sauna to talk about man stuff, and whenever you find him and Dawn together, they're making tons of gay innuendo about drilling holes, tossing salad, and everything else, sometimes inviting Harry to join them. It's always kind of presented as this joke that only Harrison really gets. That Gio, despite being a man's man and a traditional Catholic conservative, is randomly accidentally saying some real gay shit. It only ever happens around Dawn and Harrison as far as we can tell, and Dawn's too stupid to pick up on it, and Harrison's too afraid to say anything to Gio lest he offend his masculinity and get murdered. I think Sasha also notices it sometimes, but never really comments on it beyond making a bit of a joke. Anyways, by the time it came time for Gio's secret, a secret he kept hinting would ruin his family, we didn't really know what to expect, but we did know what the funniest possible outcome would be. As my friend Puppo so eloquently guessed in the chat, it would be that he was gay. However, that would be insane, right? Like, there's no way this game would do that. Let me just play you what happened on stream, because there's no way for me to communicate how fucking funny this was out loud.
My kids. What sort of man am I if I cry?
One that has a soul. Your view of what being a man means is distorted by your upbringing. The world is very different now. These ideas, they're outdated. Trust us or not, just be ready to show your heart when the time comes.
Merda. If Sasha knew, they would understand and know what to say.
Okay. Okay. I didn't think he might actually be.
That kiddo lived in a world I couldn't, with so much bravery.
I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. We're screenshotting all of it.
Hello. Seems like Social Stream did not want to capture your message. Apologies. But
You're certainly a fan of big round balls. Huh?
I don't know.
We're just screenshotting this whole one because there's no way I don't end up needing this.
Giovanni.
See.
I don't know.
Giovanni's gay.
Oh, TTS is just not working. That's great.
Stupid fucking game. Yes, correct. Giovanni Lombardi is gay, as revealed by a text from Naomi saying Gio is gay in all caps with 3 exclamation points. When I tell you that this moment was maybe the high point of the entire experience of Inescapable No Rules, No Rescue, I cannot overstate it. I was losing my fucking mind. In fact, let me just run you through a couple of the highlights of that experience as shown by my favorite clips from the stream. Here's Gio remembering a fundamental gay experience of his.
So confused by every catcall and every
Wait,
comment
I mean,
he made
TTS
to
worked
women.
for Taco's missus.
Patrick says, YouTube chat check.
Hey, I don't know, I think I'm going
Here's
insane.
where Gio has his Derek Barry Stonewall moment.
It was a different time. We didn't have internet. No drag queens to throw bricks.
I need to take a lap. Just, I'm gonna get some water. Take some deep breaths. We didn't have internet, no drag queens to throw. Again, let's just all really quickly do a history lesson here. Nobody died at Stonewall, but Stonewall was in 1969. Gio, hold on. Let me just fucking clowns at Dreamloop. Gio is 52. This game takes place in 2017. He was born in 1965. He was in preschool when fucking Stonewall happened. Here's Gio reaffirming that he loves his kids.
But I don't regret my kids. Homo or not, they are the world to me, and I would live this life again just to have them.
I need a drink. Homo or not? What the fuck are you saying? Who wrote this? And here's Harry asking the burning question we were all dying to know the answer to.
Hey, I want to ask, and please don't get upset, but you and Dan?
I can't deal with it. It's the music in the background too. It's just fucking. It's this heartfelt piano ballad in here. Okay, we're not gonna progress. I'm gonna start a poll or a prediction. Do we think it's a yes or a no? What's wild is that because of how I've written the script for the Inescapable video, this section is last, and that makes me sad because I want to save this reveal for the end of the video because I think it only has payoff if you've at least if you've had to go through the rest of it. But all right. Let's see. What is it, guys? Oh, god damn it.
You're stretching that story too much, kiddo.
I was just curious.
Tragic, he's not fucking Don. Sad. Now, the reason why this gets a tangent is because 1, it is objectively the funniest, dumbest moment in the entirety of the 50 plus hours I spent playing this game, but also because 2, it really brings us back to something we talked about ages ago with Sasha. Way back in part 3, I said, quote, Sombra's activities are entirely on the same level as the rest of her roster, but the only inescapable contestant even close to being on Sasha's level is Gio, the literal mob boss. In reference to how presenting your only openly queer character as a trans person whose violence and depravity is only ever paralleled by a literal mob boss whose primary character trait is toxic masculinity is actually not great. However, now we know that the only 2 actual killers on the island were both queer, even in the good ending, and the way it's handled with Gio really reinforces some shitty narratives about queer people being dangerous. The most notable of these, and the one I want to hone in on, is that Gio's violence is said to stem from his desire to be a real man, to prove his masculinity through fucking women and brutalizing men. There's something genuinely deeply harmful about the idea that when it comes to homophobes, it's always all just projection. That homophobic and transphobic bigots are just a bunch of closet cases who lash out due to their own insecurity. The reason this is so harmful is that it pins the blame for bigotry on the victims of that bigotry. The idea that the loudest homophobes must secretly be gay themselves, which has been used to make a lot of cishet bigots think they're actually not homophobic or transphobic because they aren't saying it out of some sort of defensiveness. The reality is that, yeah, some homophobic or transphobic politicians, preachers, and other public figures have eventually been exposed for being queer themselves. But overwhelmingly, homophobia and transphobia come from people who are not queer, because fucking duh. It comes from cisgender, heterosexual people who hate queer people for any number of reasons. And this portrayal of Gio does double duty reinforcing harmful narratives by also portraying
could all benefit from a second season. And I think it's time to change the Master of Ceremonies.
One that he wants a role in planning. The idea that this show in universe would ever get a sequel is wild, but the idea that this game would ever get a sequel is hilarious to me. But honestly, I hope you do it. I enjoyed getting to flex my hater muscles on this one. Just make sure to advertise it honestly. And if you do, I promise to be the one and only person who actually buys it. However, I'll be honest, this route wasn't terrible, all things considered. In fact, at times, it almost even occasionally approached being good. The characters are all the best versions of themselves, which isn't saying much, but at least it's better than, turning into a blood psychopath like in Suspicion or Greed, nobody having to inform the neighbors when they move into town like with Lust, and just generally everyone working together. I still don't think it is actually good though. It's still hampered by the same poor writing as the rest of the routes in the first 60 days, but the trust route is the closest we get to a look at what a good version of this game might look like. Now that we've wrapped up this route, we've wrapped up all the stories. So let's get into the final section of this video. Part 9. Final Thoughts. Ultimately, Inescapable No Rules, No Rescue is just a bad game. The writing is bad, the characters are bad, the art is generally technically proficient even if half the designs sure took a lot of inspiration from elsewhere, and the premise is bad. When I was doing research for this video, I saw a lot of people defending this game by saying that it isn't really that bad, it's just the $50 price tag that Axis forced onto them that was the problem. To those people, I'd say you need to just quit making excuses for the actions of corporations. The price of the game is a problem, but it isn't the problem. It isn't what makes this game bad. It's like saying that their decision to advertise Inescapable as a Danganronpa style killing game was the problem with it. It is definitely a problem, but even if it had been advertised honestly and at a fair price, however you define that, it still would have been a bad game for a lot of reasons. It's poorly paced as a consequence of its bad premise. The story should have never been about 6 months, and it never should have taken 60 days for the story to actually start. It also probably never should have had the morning, afternoon, evening cycle, because that just locks into too many events that need to happen to drag out the length. If you're going to do the morning, afternoon, evening cycle, this game needed to be like 1 to 3 months tops. The length is the biggest structural issue with the game, and if you're going to rip off Danganronpa, you might as well rip off their structure too. Just don't assign a time of day to whatever's happening. Either it's time for a scripted event, or it's time for free time. You don't need to do this consistent structure. One thing I'll say in favor of Zero Time Dilemma is that in spite of its many, many, many flaws, it was blessedly relatively short at a mere 20 hours from start to finish to get all the routes and all the endings that you needed. Inescapable took more than twice as long to fully finish all 4 routes, and that was speedrunning that shit. Or not literally, whatever. If Zero Time Dilemma had taken that long to complete and had been full of as much filler as Inescapable, it would have managed to be a far, far worse game than it already is. Another key structural issue here is the routes. This is a terrible way to handle branching narratives. Dreamlab seems to think they've made like the only visual novel to do branching narratives, but that's just not true. They're just the ones who probably did it the worst. Most visual novels with branching narratives do one of 2 things. They either allow the decisions you make throughout the game to influence the route you end up on, or there are preset divergence points that split the narrative based on a single decision or a limited handful of decisions. Examples of the former would include things like Buried Stars, where the dialogue options you choose influence the route you get without being singularly tied to one decision or another, as well as most romance visual novels where you choose who you romance through collective actions piling up, rather than one single decision or another. However, in both of these instances, it's a lot easier to tell where you're at than in Inescapable. In romance games, you generally know what route you're on based on which character you're spending time with, and in Buried Stars, you get updates whenever your relationships with certain characters or your own mental health improve or deteriorate, so you can at least make some guesses about where you're ending up. Alternatively, you have games like the Zero Escape games where your branching paths are usually the result of the decisions that you make at individual points. You can choose to open door 4 or door 5 and 999, and there's a branching path depending on which one you go down that you can return to at any point to make the other decision. And it's worth remembering that the Zero Escape franchise was published also in North America by Axis Games, just in case anyone's trying to lay all the blame for bad game design on the publisher here. Inescapable is closer to the Buried Stars style, but without having any way of knowing where you're going. As well, while Buried Stars has a similar problem to Inescapable where it can be hard to choose what specific choices lead you down a certain path, or even telling you that a choice is happening to begin with, it benefits from a much tighter narrative. Buried Stars has 6 named characters who are alive at the start of the game in the collapse stage, including the protagonist, and you spend the whole game with most of them. There are only a couple other characters who matter, including the deceased producer and a mysterious ally named Plughole who offers you aid through the game through your phone, or your watch, I guess. But ultimately, the narrative is kept focused on the singular problem. They're trapped under a collapsed stage and are trying to stay alive and sane. The setting is kept equally narrow, limited to only a handful of areas within the collapsed stage, most of which you only explore when the narrative needs you to, and all of which serve a purpose. The characters are bound together by their collective participation in the Buried Stars survival competition show, meaning that a lot of character details are already implicitly established and there's more time to flesh them out in conversation. Buried Stars also takes place over just one night, starting around midnight and ending as the sun comes up. All of this collectively makes Buried Stars work much, much better even with some shortcomings. Inescapable, by contrast, does the opposite. Its setting is too broad and unrestrained, its characters have nothing in common, its narrative is too broad to be worth engaging with, and it takes way, way too long for this format to work. In addition, if you want to get multiple endings, which is presumably the intention of the game, given that multiple endings are usually only something you do if you want people to get all of them, or at least most, you have to restart the game and play it from the start, making it insanely tedious and frustrating. Buried Stars does this too, but you have less distance to go, and you can reset a lot easier. On the writing level, there's really no redeeming this game's writing. Like, scrap it all, start over. See me after class, F. These characters are awful. This premise sucks. The dialogue alternates between inane and incoherent, and the plot as a whole is a never-ending trudge through some of the worst gameplay I have ever experienced. I have truly never disliked a roster of characters as much as I dislike this game's roster, whether that's in terms of how miserable characters like Sasha and Valerie are to be around, the awful implications about characters like Annika, or just the incoherent worldviews of characters like Mia and Dawn. The characters are generally drawn in a way that's technically proficient, but their designs range from passable to bafflingly bad, and in CGs, the game's art style really falls apart. The game's premise needed to be scrapped, and that includes its characters. I get wanting a diverse range of characters, but there's absolutely nothing coherent about this cast that makes it work from a logistical perspective in-universe or a narrative purpose outside the fiction of the game. There is no world in which Valerie, Mia, Sasha, Gio, Francisca, and Harrison are all part of the same story. Just doesn't make any sense. I mentioned it before, but games like this need to be able to justify why these characters were brought together, and the more diverse the cast is, the more work you need to do to get there. Danganronpa does it by only ever using a single class of students from Hope's Peak or the Ultimate Academy for Gifted Individuals, which provides an excuse for why this group of people with extremely diverse skills and personalities are being brought together. In Zero Escape, the characters in the game share connections that they don't necessarily know about at the start and have to figure out as they work through the game's story. However, you don't need people to have a fundamental reason for being included either, necessarily. Your Turn to Die brings together characters that don't share such an obvious connection, but it still works because the people it brings together are generally just normal people. You have students, teachers, police officers, musicians, etc., but nobody who's so far head and shoulders above the rest of the roster that they don't make sense as participants, the way that Gio, Sasha, and Valerie are above the inescapable cast. The hosts are also awful. You needed to scrap Naomi and Naima because they weigh the game down like nothing else, especially Naomi. Every time she spoke, new viewers on my stream would uniformly react with something along the lines of, Jesus fucking Christ, why does she sound like that? Their dual role as producers and hosts is also stupid because that's not how things work in reality television, at least not in this weirdly distant way. Jeff Probst is on the island with them in Survivor. RuPaul is in the workroom with them on Drag Race. Not every killing game needs a producer to be present in person, but when they're being filmed for a reality competition show like this, they absolutely need more than a Zoom call. Like, it's just bad framing. Delete both characters, write a single good character to host the show, and have them pop up in person while performing to the cameras or something. The approach that this game takes just sucks. Relatedly, the format of the in-universe reality show sucks ass. Having a show where everyone will be given 500,000 euros after 6 months isn't really a competition, and in all routes but suspicion, there's no attempt to implement a real contest at any point. No reality show on Earth would ever start filming with a cast for a 6-month project and then only decide a third of the way through what kind of game they were actually playing. Frankly, it would have made more sense if Inescapable was supposed to be like a slice-of-life reality show about how people cope with this sort of thing. Like some kind of non-competitive Naked and Afraid where the cash prize was just to keep them quiet about what happened. We also really do need to talk about representation, because this game does a sincerely bad job of it. Whether it's queer representation with Gio, Sasha, Ava, Lumi, Mia, and Francisca, or black representation with Lumi, disability representation with Annika, or whatever else they were trying to do here, it fails spectacularly. The voice actors sometimes put on accents that represent where they're from, but just as often you get characters who don't sound even remotely connected to the country they're supposed to be from, and there wasn't nearly enough effort, if any effort at all, put into voice direction. Representation Gio, Sasha, Ava, Lumi, Mia, and Francisca, or black representation with Lumi, disability representation with Annika, or whatever else.
Hey folks, just to let you know, I now have a new channel where I'll be uploading video game related reviews and videos from time to time. If that's of any interest to you, please do give it a look and subscribe. Disney's live-action remake of Snow White has one of the most tumultuous stories of any movie in that company's history, and certainly within recent memory. It suffered problem after problem, controversy after controversy, disaster after disaster, and one of the worst public relations nightmares of any movie from the last decade, being a subject of popular ridicule long before it played on any screens. Plot holes, feuds, deceit, bad acting, disability erasure, Lord Farquaad, fires, boycotts, protests, brawls, Wee Man from Jackass, vandalism, social media sniping, strikes, culture wars, review bombing, scared children, memes, a pandemic, Donald Trump, bad feminism, death threats, geopolitical struggles, $350 million, and whatever the hell this face is. This story has it all. Except for a sex scandal, that's the one thing it doesn't have. For now. But otherwise, it is a roller coaster. It is a masterclass in how not to make a movie, how not to promote a movie, and in how the best laid schemes of mice and men often go awry. So come join me on an epic journey through time and space as we explore the full story behind the epic disaster that was the Snow White remake. Big thanks to Red Hunter, That Other George, and Skoroy of Rivia for helping me put this one together. Disney's 1937 animated classic adapts the old fairy tale of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, as recorded by the Brothers Grimm. With some changes, of course. Having the evil queen be forced to wear burning hot iron shoes and dance until she drops dead wasn't exactly considered family-friendly anymore. For all two of you who don't know this story, Snow White is the daughter of a king, whose evil queen's stepmother makes her a servant after her father dies. The vain queen obsesses over being the fairest of them all, until one day her magic mirror tells her that Snow White is now the fairest. The jealous queen orders her huntsman to take Snow White into the woods, kill her, and bring back her heart. But he can't bring himself to kill such a kind and gentle soul, so he lets her go, taking back a pig's heart instead. Snow White quickly befriends some woodland animals, who lead her to a cottage inhabited by the titular Seven Dwarves. They let her stay with them, and much fun, songs and shenanigans ensue until the evil queen realises she's been duped. She disguises herself as an old hag and tricks Snow White into biting a poisoned apple. The dwarves discover this and give chase, and the evil queen falls off a cliff and gets crushed by a boulder. The dwarves place Snow White, now in a coma, in a protective glass case. A prince hears about this and sets out to find her. He wakes her up with love's first kiss, and they ride off into the sunset for a happily ever after. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs isn't just a Disney film, it's the original Disney film. It was both one of the first fully animated feature-length movies and responsible for really putting Walt Disney and his company on the map. It was hugely successful, and when adjusted for inflation is still the highest grossing animated movie to this day. It was widely acclaimed and is often regarded as one of the greatest and most important movies of all time, being massively influential on the animation industry and leading to the golden age of Disney animation. Flash forward more than 80 years, and Disney have since shifted their approach entirely away from hand-drawn 2D animation, pumping out live-action and CGI remakes of their beloved animated films such as Mulan, Aladdin and The Lion King. A string of releases that, with few exceptions, ranged from lackluster to outright dog shit. But Disney didn't care because they usually made money hand over fist. And all the way back in 2016, it was announced that Snow White would have its place on the chopping block. It was later confirmed that Mark Webb of 500 Days of Summer and The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 fame was set to direct the project. Many people's reaction to all this, myself included, was something along the lines of, "Oh god, really? Another one? Yet more of this crap?" After witnessing an era of expensive but creatively bankrupt slop, people were rightfully quite cynical about the prospects for this new entry. Whatever your opinions on the original Snow White, and it's far from my personal favourite Disney film, what you can't deny is the movie's importance and cultural legacy. So when remaking this film in particular, far more so than Disney's other remakes, there's already going to be an enormous amount of pressure to respect that importance and honour that legacy. It begs the question of why you would even dare to remake something like this. I mean, we all know why. Let's not kid ourselves.
How much is enough? How big does this pile have to be?
But even if you are only doing it for money, right from the start, in the immortal words of Blade, you're going to be ice skating uphill. And it didn't take long for people's skepticism to be confirmed. The revelation that Gal Gadot was set to play the evil queen caused more than a bit of head shaking, given her well-earned reputation as a subpar actress, with it being very easy to find compilations of her bad acting.
Max Lord, you're putting yourself and everyone else in grave danger. I need you to give me the stone. Kalel, no.
And enough champagne to fill the Nile.
And she demonstrated her exemplary talent on the movie's poster. Of more significance was the prior casting of Rachel Ziegler as the titular Snow White, which sparked multiple points of discussion. Firstly, Snow White is said to be the fairest in the land. It's a pretty big deal as far as her story is concerned, and the reason for the evil queen's jealousy and murderous intent. Of all the things you could say about Gal Gadot, I think we can all agree that she's very physically attractive in a conventional sense. She did first come to prominence as a model after all, And while Ziegler isn't unattractive by any means, some people did kind of go, really?
The new show poster meme. I mean, nobody could quite understand why the beautiful Snow White was actually being played by Rachel Zegler to begin with, right? I mean, and Gal Gadot, like, mirror, mirror on the wall, I'm sorry, like, there's one that's winning that game, and I say this as a woman, okay?
This whole discussion feels a bit mean to Ziegler, honestly. But the movie did the opposite of helping her, A, by making her look really bad in it, and B, by providing a true beauty comes from within explanation for her label as the fairest. Which unintentionally does give the message that, yeah, you're not as hot as she is. They accidentally threw her under the bus a bit with that one. Far more importantly though, the casting of a Latina actress to play a character called Snow White, whose skin is said to be white as snow, immediately brought forth charges of wokeness and political correctness gone mad, with the subject Snow Woke trending for a time on social media.
Again, her name is Snow White. Now, you might consider that racist, but that's also the name of the actual fairy tale. And in the actual fairy tale, it says skin, I mean, this is from the original 1936 Snow White. Skin as white as snow, right? That is literally in her name. That's why she has her name.
Meaning that even when the movie was in pre-production, it was already part of the incessant culture war. Negative reactions varied from outright racist vitriol to arguments about the laziness of race-swapping characters rather than creating original diverse ones, to concerns that this was a sign that the source material would not be respected, or that the movie would be used as a vehicle for obnoxious messaging, which would turn out not to be entirely incorrect. The context of it being a repeat of the controversy around the casting of Halle Bailey for Disney's live-action Little Mermaid movie meant that feelings on both sides were even more intense. This film does offer an explanation for how Ziegler could play Snow White. The character's name comes from the fact that she was born during a snowstorm. This storm did happen in the Brothers Grimm tale, but that wasn't the reason for her name, which was derived from her physical appearance. Regardless of whether you accept this reasoning or of your stance on this issue, Disney would continue to employ a progressive, colourblind casting process, and attempted to brush off the negativity by simply ignoring it.
You don't particularly see people who, look like me or are me playing roles like that. So it was definitely, when it got announced, it was a huge thing that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry.
People that we need to educate, the people that we need to love into awareness.
Love them in the right direction, exactly.
But the casting controversies would go from bad to worse when it came to the dwarves, the other major element of Snow White's story. On the WTF podcast, Game of Thrones star Peter Dinklage, arguably one of, if not the, most famous dwarf actors around, had some scathing remarks to make about Disney's film.
Official Kist says.
There's a lot of hypocrisy going on, I gotta say.
Really? Hello.
Like what do you
How are you doing this evening?
I was a little taken back by the they're very proud
Patrick
to cast
says.
a Latino
YouTube
actress
chat check.
as Snow White.
Yeah.
But you're still telling the story of Snow White.
Snow White, yeah.
Seven Dwarfs.
Sure.
So, look, take a step back.
Official Kist says.
That makes
good.
no sense to me.
But, so what?
You can be
That's
progressive in one
good.
way, but you're still making that fucking backward story of seven dwarves living in a cave. What the fuck are you doing, man? Have I done nothing to advance the cause from my soapbox? I guess I'm not loud enough. And all love and respect to the actress and to the people who thought they were doing the right thing. But I'm just like, what are you doing?
These comments ignited a shitstorm, with other dwarf actors and entertainers quickly coming forward to loudly disagree with him.
Fuck you, Peter Dinklage. Piece of shit.
That's real heat, too.
Fucking hate him.
This is actually quite an interesting and complicated issue, because until very recently, the only parts that were available for dwarf actors were things like fantasy dwarves and goblins, and not necessarily well-rounded characters. From the perspective of someone trying to branch out from these roles and be taken seriously as a dramatic actor, I can definitely see how it would feel condescending and frustrating to have that continue.
Official Kiss says, I don't have an OC, I just wanted to join.
Stereotypes about people with
That's
dwarfism.
fine.
But the other side
I
of this is
have
that
way
while they
too
were
many,
pigeonholed into
but I
these
don't
roles, it
even
allowed
draw
dwarf
them
actors
very
to carve out a
often.
niche for themselves in a very competitive industry and find work more consistently than other actors.
I'm trying to
If
make
those
up for
roles
that.
didn't exist, then neither would their careers.
If you don't
Because
have
if you
an
take those roles
OC,
away, the
you
industry
could just
is
draw your
suddenly
favorite
going to cast
anime
dwarves in
character,
other roles.
or cartoon character, or video game character.
You're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, it's for dwarfs, you know?
And Dinklage's comments rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. He seemed very dismissive and condescending about the highly regarded source material. There was also disagreement about the Seven
Official
Dwarfs
Kiss
being
says,
a demeaning representation
what do
of
you
little
think of the
people in first
67
place,
meme?
and whether or not that judgment should ultimately
Never
be
heard
up
of
to the
it.
individual portraying them.
And it's not, again, like I said, these dwarves in that movie or in this story aren't viewed poorly, I don't believe.
No.
They're all separate characters that are actually heroes for this lady.
Yes.
And they take care and they take this lady in.
They save
so
her.
they're viewed so well to society.
More importantly, as someone who has made a very successful career out of playing dwarf roles, it came across like he was pulling up the ladder after him, even if that wasn't his intention.
Yeah, I think it's really selfish of him because he's made it now and he's taken the opportunity away from other people that have dwarfism, and he knows the position that we've been through. I'm sure he's walked the path. It's been difficult to get certain roles.
And other dwarves were quick to point out that he can't speak for the rest of them, as indeed no one can. Dinklage also never followed up on his comments or clarified his position, which didn't help his case. Disney responded by saying that they were going to reevaluate the role of the dwarves in light of sensitivity concerns and take a different approach, which eventually turned out to be replacing dwarf actors entirely with CGI characters, or magical creatures as Disney called them. They're never referred to as dwarves in the film, and the Seven Dwarves was even dropped from the title. But come on, they weren't fooling anybody. We all know
Official
what's going
Kiss
on
says,
here. Whether
can you
this
draw a
was
cat that
Dinklage's
looks
desire
drunk?
or not, and I do think the ultimate responsibility lies with Disney.
I mean, very badly, I probably could.
Jobs of not only multiple dwarf actors, but also potential body doubles and extras.
But why
something
would
he
I?
received backlash for both before and after the fact.
He costed so many
I would imagine it.
jobs with that Snow White bullshit. And then you're gonna have 7 dwarves, then their extras, then their stunt doubles that are all gonna get paid, and he fucked it.
But according to Grumpy's voice actor, Martin Kleber, Disney had always planned to use motion capture and CGI for the not dwarves, even before this controversy, which meant that Dinklage's comments had nothing to do with their decision. The not dwarves ended up being played by the puppeteers who controlled the puppets that were then used as a frame of reference for the CGI characters. Incredibly though,
burp
as far as I could
bubbles.
tell, Kleber was the only one of the voice actors or motion capture artists who had some form of dwarfism. They couldn't even have given dwarf actors these roles? Like, come on.
It's a bad thing. I'm not agreeing with it. This is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Why are you hiring Snow
And
White
of course,
and
it
the
has to
Seven
be
Dwarfs?
holding the beer bottle
By
to make it
attempting
very
to be
obvious.
politically correct and not offend anyone, Disney actually ended up taking a worst of all worlds approach and pleasing nobody. They still had the magical dwarves that Dinklage was complaining about, and dwarf actors had lost career opportunities, with some activists also calling it erasure and even planning protests over the issue. And it was staggeringly hypocritical for Disney to do this while also talking about inclusivity and representation. Jackasses.
They're remaking the movie, they just got rid of the dwarfs. You actually just went backwards. You actually just erased the dwarfism side of it. The disability, like we're a disability group, you just erase that whole image.
There is one character in the film who's played by a dwarf, but he's so one-dimensional that you'd forget his name if he didn't loudly state it multiple times.
You're in the presence of the Rebel Quig, master of the crossbow. I am the Rebel Quig, master of the crossbow. I am the Rebel Quig.
Official Kiss says,
Master of
can
the
you make it have
crossbow.
crooked
He's
teeth?
part of a group of bandits, the rest of whom are played by
No.
non-dwarf actors.
That sounds
And
ugly.
when behind-the-scenes photos emerged
Why
of
would I
these
draw an
characters,
ugly
it
cat?
was widely believed that they were the intended replacements for the Seven Dwarves, which led to yet more criticism and
Cats must
ridicule.
be adorable.
Initially, a spokesperson for Disney claimed that these photos were fake, which fooled no one. Disney then backtracked and simply said that they were not official, which was true, but made no difference to anyone's perception of the situation. It was eventually revealed that, yes, the not dwarves would also be in the film, and that the bandits were additional characters. And as we'll see, their presence in the movie is pointless, since they not only take away time from the dwarves, but most of the bandit gang's role in the film was drastically reduced during extensive reshoots.
Ta-da.
So, nobody won.
Don't drink.
Things weren't looking good so far, and a lot of people were either skeptical or annoyed. But you've seen this video's runtime, and believe it or not, we are nowhere near done. Having been delayed by 2 years due to the COVID pandemic,
Official
principal
Kiss
photography
says,
began in March
"That's
2022 at Pinewood Studios in jolly old England. Disney had to employ strict safety measures due to
Horrificness.
increasing COVID cases at the time, adding further millions to the movie's budget. During this time, one of the sets that was under construction caught fire. Nobody was hurt, but this was hardly an auspicious sign. Like some power above was trying to stop all this before it got worse. Not long into filming, there was another bit of drama concerning Ziegler.
Official Kiss
She had
says,
previously starred
Emma,
as
get
Maria
going
in
now,
Steven
bye-bye.
Spielberg's adaptation
Bye
of West
bye.
Side
Thanks
Story.
for dropping
But despite
by.
playing the lead role in a film with 7 Academy Award nominations, she did not receive an invite to the 2022 Oscars ceremony.
Oh, wow! Wow!
Despite the production studio, 20th Century Studios, having been allocated tickets. A highly unusual snub for which no explanation was forthcoming. After a public outcry, she was invited as a presenter a few days later, even cracking a joke about her experience.
Growing up in Australia, I never thought that I would stand on this stage.
And I never thought that I would be here 6 days ago. We did it. Dreams really can come true pretty fast, too.
Well, who owns 20th Century Studios? That's right, Daddy Disney. And an insider told news organisation The Wrap that the reason Ziegler didn't get an invite was because Disney did not want to risk jeopardising the filming of Snow White. Which, if true, was massively shitty of them. Classic Disney move, though. After all, Walt Disney himself did fuck over the original voice actress for Snow White because he didn't want the magic of Disney being ruined or some bullshit. But anyhow, production continued. Originally intended to be released in the spring of 2024, almost 2 years after filming originally wrapped, strikes by the Writers Guild of America and the Actors Union SAG-AFTRA had caused Disney to delay the movie's release by another year. Disney were also reportedly unhappy with how the movie had turned out and demanded reshoots be undertaken, reshoots that suffered delays as a result of the aforementioned strikes. Around this time, Gal Gadot experienced serious health complications in the 8th month of her 4th pregnancy, adding further, although completely understandable, delays. Fortunately, she and her daughter turned out okay. Reshoots aren't necessarily a bad thing, but they're usually not a good sign. Given how the movie eventually turned out, I can't imagine how bad it must have been before these changes. But according to insiders, at least some of the cut content was better than what was left in the final version. I mean, there was a deleted scene in which Snow White almost fucking drowns. Ah, but that was too impactful. Can't have the audience feeling any sense of peril, can we? In August of 2024, Disney released a teaser trailer for the film, and oh my giddy lord, it was not well received, with almost every aspect of what was on display being savagely torn apart. This only got worse when the official trailer was released in December, with the acting, costumes, CGI and more coming in for relentless mockery. One journalist even claimed that his young son found the dwarves terrifying, and a series of AI songs made out of funny comments on the trailer has so far racked up more than 50 million views on YouTube
Hello 3.
alone.
Hello. I don't know why I didn't catch your first message, but oi as well.
Speaking of AI, it's somewhat of a damning indictment that AI-generated alternatives to Snow White were much better received than the trailers for a major Disney release.
You don't go half-ass on Snow White, motherfucker. Art demands sacrifice.
As the total investment in the movie, including marketing, had ballooned to an estimated $350 million, every piece of publicity for the Snow White remake generated more massive amounts of oof than a Will Smith music video. When you're marketing your movie, you want to make it as appealing as possible to its intended target audience. And you certainly don't want to put people off if you can help it. Or at least Disney doesn't, because they want as big a market share as they can get. Of course, when you try to appeal to everyone, you end up not really speaking
Who are you
to
drawing?
anyone. But this
A
section
character
of the video
of
could be
mine.
called how Rachel Ziegler pissed almost
Just a
everybody
very
off.
different version
At
of
the
him.
Disney fan club's Deep
That's not
Dive
very
Expo
quite
in
similar
September
to his
2022,
original
the first
version.
opportunity for fans to see this new Snow White,
Dun,
Ziegler made
dun.
some interesting comments.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it.
Gypsy Ray
on
says,
stage. What do you mean by that?
it looks
I
really
just mean
good.
that it's no longer 1937.
Thank you. I'm currently hating very much the hair.
That is
Not gonna be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be
I
saved by
just
the prince,
gotta
and
get
she's
it
not gonna be
done.
dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. And so it's just a really incredible story for, I think, young people everywhere to see themselves in.
She doubled down on this stance
What about
in
you?
another
Working on
interview at the
anything?
event.
I know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different and it's more of a 2022 version of Snow White. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
Gypsy Ray
There's
says,
a big focus
not
on
really.
her love story.
Ah,
with
that's
a
a
guy who literally
shame.
stalks her. Weird. So we didn't do that this time.
This provoked an uproar, with the anti-woke crowd jumping at the chance to denounce her and the movie as being part of the woke agenda. And for many others, it was eye-roll inducing. Ziegler's comments grated on people for a number of reasons. She came across as very condescending and contemptuous of the film they were remaking, which nobody wants to see from one of the lead participants in a project, and prompts the question, why are you even involved if you had such an issue with the original? Aside from the Disney box, obviously. This got worse after Ziegler revealed that
The
she
Disney
barely
box.
watched the movie and wasn't a fan of it.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on
Gypsy
the
Ray
ride
says,
in Disney World, which was
except
called
for a
Snow
Dino
White's
mask.
Scary Adventures.
Ooh.
Doesn't sound like something a little kid would
What,
like.
they got like a furry style, like carving away at something or decorating a mask to make it your own?
16,
Getting ready for Halloween
17
early?
years when I was doing this film.
Which I don't think is nearly as bad of a statement as it was made out to be, but nevertheless, it was very easy to interpret in a bad light. Contrast this to Godot, who talked about how proud
Gypsy
she
Ray
was
says,
to play a role in the film
yep.
and celebrated the original movie's
Right,
85th
good luck then.
anniversary. Despite proclaiming herself a fan of Disney films, Ziegler's approach and her attitude towards this beloved classic alienated a lot of people, and did nothing to give them faith that this project would be
Gypsy
in
Ray
any sense
says,
respectful.
thank you.
Many people get rightfully annoyed by the hypocrisy of a company or
Mm-hmm.
person banking on a nostalgic or popular IP to make money, while also disrespecting it and changing it unnecessarily. Putting this in the context of other media adaptations that were ruined partly due to the creator's lack of respect for the source material, and it's easy to understand why people would get so passionate about this. Despite being far from solely responsible for such a revisionist approach, Ziegler received the majority of the hate for it, and at least she was aware enough to know that much of the backlash was motivated by the passion that fans have for the original film. Furthermore, there were her comments on specific elements of the animated film.
That is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be.
This struck people as a sign that the movie would be driven by a message that would overwhelm its story rather than be a natural part of it, and would feature the, quote, strong female character cliche that's so frequently done wrong and to cringe-worthy effect. If the point was about how active protagonists are more interesting than passive ones, that much would be true. But that's not what's being discussed.
The cartoon was made 85 years ago, and therefore it's extremely dated when it comes to the ideas of women being in roles of power and what a woman is fit for in the world. And so when we came to reimagining the actual role of Snow White, it became about the fairest of them all, meaning who is the most just and who can become a fantastic leader.
But there's another side to this. You see, many feminists actually denounce Ziegler's comments as an example of faux feminism, the idea being that it's actually counterproductive to the cause of women's empowerment, because it implies that a woman's worth is somehow linked to whether or not she adheres to traditional gender roles, in this case being saved by the prince.
What doesn't fit into my brain
Official Kiss
is
says,
why does
okay,
a
I'm back.
woman need
Welcome
to
back.
suddenly be proactive, extraordinary, have this incredible successful
Botrix
career
says,
in order to be
official Kiss, you leveled up to level
in order
1.
to be considered a protagonist.
When really, Snow White is empowered if she is who she chooses
Right.
to be.
Most of the basic elements of the drawing are here.
Feminist. Not every woman woman is a leader. Not every woman wants
Official
to be a
Kiss
leader.
says.
Not every woman
Yay.
wants or craves power, and that's okay. It is not anti-feminist
What's
to
missing?
want to fall in love, to want to get married, to want to stay at home, to be soft, to want to be a homemaker. None of these things make you less valuable as a person or a woman.
Despite her circumstances, she still exercises a surprising degree of autonomy in her own story. Even though she is a somewhat passive character, to claim that she has no agency is just untrue. In addition, many people simply disagreed that there was anything wrong with Snow White's depiction in the original. She was kind, gentle, helpful, and hardworking. These are positive traits, even if they're associated with a more passive traditional gender role. So for those people, Ziegler's
Official
complaints
Kiss
were
says.
nothing more than pointless
Wait, why
virtue
are there
signaling.
fries on the left? Does
There's
that mean
also
we're
the fact
dead?
that she might have had a point if this film had come out more
Well,
than
it's because
14
it's not
years ago.
working
But
today.
active female protagonists are now the norm
You're supposed to be
in
able to
Western media, not the
hear
exception. This
your
is also the case in
own
Disney movies. I mean, hell, Enchanted did
BTS
this almost
voice,
20
and the
years
fries
ago,
would react
which means that this
to
approach
chat.
is far from original and
It's just
nothing
not working
special.
today.
Gypsy Ray says.
Oh, there it is.
I fear my little kitten is biting my toes.
And if they were all girl
You
bosses,
better fix her, otherwise she's gonna get a taste for human flesh.
Remakes where original characters that aren't supposed to become leaders become feminist icons somehow. Every female character has a feminist icon stamp on her. The whole movie industry becomes boring. It just becomes very predictable.
And even if you
Gypsy
agree
Ray
with the
says.
message, no one goes
I
to a
think she
movie
already
theater to be
does.
preached at. So the
Oh
prospect of
dear,
this
well,
happening
can't fix it
wasn't
now.
exactly appealing.
You're
People
just
want to see a
doomed.
good movie, and that should always come first. As for the point about the prince stalking Snow White, even if
Be
you
ready
want
to
put
be
these comments down to her being
eaten in your
facetious,
sleep.
It was still unwarranted, and demonstrated a further lack of affection for the source material. And also, if you think that the original scene where the prince wakes her up with a kiss is creepy, a position that has been taken, would you rather Snow White had stayed in the coma forever? Her comments about the remake not focusing on a love story are also quite strange, given that the prince and the romance are only a factor at the beginning and right at the end of the animated film. As we'll see, romance
Official
actually
Kiss
plays a
says.
more predominant role
Thirsty,
in the
thirsty,
remake
thirsty,
than it does in the
yogalagalaga hee hee
original.
yogalagala
The
hee.
prince character has been removed entirely
Gypsy
and
Ray
replaced
says.
by another love
Doomed to
interest,
death by
but
evil
Ziegler
kitten.
also made some quite
Hey,
disrespectful
hey,
remarks
can't be
concerning
bestowing titles like evil. You're the one that let her get a taste for
Modric
blood.
says. Gypsy Ray, you leveled up to level 1.
And it
Good
does make me wonder
job.
whether part of the aforementioned reshoots involved expanding on the love story and his role in the film in reaction to her comments and the resulting criticism. Ziegler later clarified many of these comments and expressed sadness that they were taken as they were, but by then it was far too late. Whether or not any of this is what she meant, that is how it came across, and the damage was done. Ziegler had made herself a very easy target by being so outspoken. A lot of the negativity directed at the film became centered around her, even when others involved with the project, such as Godot, agreed with her views.
Also, the fact that she's not going to be saved by the prince.
I don't know why I
she's the
skipped that
proactive
one,
and she's the one who set
I
the
guess
terms,
TTS disagrees. I'm not a
is
cool.
what makes it so relevant to where we are today.
I don't know.
And if
It's
Gypsy Ray says.
Mm.
to her,
What's
she
her
was told
OCS
by
name?
Disney to
Well, this guy
Smiley
is named
face.
Silas.
much bigger and broader than someday
He,
my
I don't know. He may be
and
going up
I'm
for
wishing
adopt
for the one I
soon.
love, then
'Cause
she can't take the brunt
he's
of the
not
blame
very.
for having made
I
those
really like his
statements.
hair,
And
and I like
personally
some of
find
his
it hard to believe that
colors,
she and Godot would
and I
have
like
made
the
these
new
statements in
hairstyle I
multiple
gave
interviews
him.
unless
But
they'd been told by someone at Disney to emphasize
I
this
have
talking
way
point.
too many. I had an OC collecting phase in my younger days.
White was like 80-something years ago.
Oh, I really need a
Dated.
clean,
Right now,
clean
the
house
version
per
that
se.
that we have, Snow White is much more
Like
proactive.
I'm liking this hair so
Saved by
much,
the
I may
prince.
just
She's gonna,
steal it
you know,
for
get
another
her own
character.
agency and all of that.
We'll
And
see if
if
I
it
can
was
even
the
finish
case
this
that this was a
drawing.
marketing gimmick gone wrong, then Disney had a moral obligation to
Can
back her up.
bats
But in any case,
hold
they didn't
their
back her
Gypsy
up.
Ray
wings?
says.
It does appear that
That's my
Disney
brother's
did
name,
engage in
hee
some damage control,
Dang.
having her emphasize how much
Well, I
she
hope
loves
he
the
doesn't
original
become
film and
a
future
murdery
characters,
vampire.
which came across to some as being heavily scripted.
Just a very dedicated group of people.
I hope he lives a very blessed life.
Disney cartoons. I'm one of them. You know,
I have to learn how to draw
Gypsy
a
Ray says.
folded
put out
wing.
in the past a million years, 100 years this year. And
It is worth noting
Because, like,
that
I have a
throughout all this,
story I
Seeker
want
did
to
have her
write,
plans and other
and
celebrities who
I need to
spoke out in her
become
defense. But there was
adept
also a
enough at
significant
drawing that I can
contingent of
draw
those who were
those
mercilessly
characters, the ones that are
unsympathetic.
stuck purely
Even
in
when
my
she made valid
mind.
points, her attitude and the overall context led
Because
people
right
to
now I
ignore
just
them
have a
and
lot
think
of
of her as
random
entitled. Some of the
designs
criticism
that
was
I've
valid and
collected.
some of it was not, sometimes devolving into
Mm.
body shaming and other outright nastiness.
The internet is not my biggest fan. It never has been, but it especially isn't these days. I've made some stupid choices, but I don't think anything to warrant the amount of negativity that I see on this.
No,
Official
I still
Kira
don't know
says,
how.
In a vlog she
Aim a
posted
go
on
now
her
FR
YouTube
this
channel
time cause I
titled
play
"I
too
Ran
much
Away
brawl
from My Problems
stats.
for 24 hours,"
Oh
she
no,
made
not the
some
brawl
emotional statements
stats.
regarding her position on the
Don't get your
internet.
phone taken away for too much brawl stats.
ungrateful for the opportunities
Oh,
I have.
child,
When
be
I tell
free.
you
Thank you for stopping
that it's
by.
hard,
I
just
have to look
need
at
to be inside my
Batwing
brain.
references for a while. I need to find
Matrix says,
how to do this.
YouTube chat check.
And
Gypsy
I
Ray
don't know if
says,
that will make sense, but that's where I'm at.
yummy
I'm
too.
so grateful for the things that I'm able to do, and a lot of what I'm able to do is because of
I have over
you guys,
100
and
characters.
I'm so unbelievably thankful for that.
This was seen as a display of delusional narcissism.
I don't think I'm gonna
and a refusal to take
understand how to
responsibility for her behavior.
draw wings
Except there was one
within a
problem.
day.
This video was uploaded in June
Maybe within many
2022, months
days.
before she'd made her controversial statements and had nothing to do with the backlash to them. But that didn't matter to everyone who'd already jumped on the hate train because it was just one more reason to
They
validate
got
their dislike
bones.
for her.
They got
Ironically,
Gypsy
Krita
Ray
herself
says,
said that this exact
I have
thing
a
would
whole
happen in
notebook
her
of them.
video.
I have a feeling that this video
Yeah,
is gonna get
it's interesting. Like in my notebook drawing days, I drew a lot of Sonic and Tails, and I did have some characters, but they're like too shameful to ever put onto
which is fine. That's
a
what I signed up
computer.
for, isn't it?
I have some saved in some cursed folders somewhere.
Treated to the same reception.
And I know that in the past year, I posted, I think, one YouTube video, and I know everybody's really pissed at me, and I'm sorry. I've done plenty of wrong. I've also acknowledged this before in many ways. On YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram, I've talked about what an idiot I've been as a young person in this industry who has no filter and no idea
Gypsy Ray
what
says,
she's doing. It's just
okay.
point blank period. And then there's the internet that has no
Meow.
grace or forgiveness for anybody for anything. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a ridiculous thing. It is what it is. The dumbass stuff I've done on the internet, the dumbass things I've said, I don't absolve myself from that. I'm not sitting here being like, I'm 21, please forgive me. Like, the stupid shit I've said and done is stupid shit.
Her videos began to get mass disliked, and she hasn't posted on that channel in over 2 years. It was evident that the intensity of the backlash did take a toll on her, despite her efforts to keep her chin up and remain optimistic.
I think a lot of people are very mean whenever I do public appearances. And
Gypsy
so
Ray
when I do
says,
public appearances, I get
his hair looks
very
similar to mine, but
I had
mine's more of a
anxiety
swamp green.
attack on the plane ride here, because I was just kind of, remembering
I mean, if you have any type of grayish, bluish hair, I would say you're a genetic marvel.
as well. And I got really nervous at the prospect of coming back for any reason so soon after leaving in November.
Unless it's
And also because
dyed.
I know
Swamp green sounds like witch colors.
when like pictures of me
You're gonna be a
surface on the internet,
dino
it's gotten
witch.
to a point where I actually had the thought in my brain of what
Gypsy Ray says,
surgery and how
hee hee.
much surgery do I have to get for people to finally stop calling me ugly on the internet.
The answer is there's never enough surgery for
Those
people to
comments
stop
and the
calling you
casting
ugly,
controversies led the
unfortunately.
son of the original film's director to denounce the movie and accuse Disney's bosses of insulting the classic. And these were not the only
It's not because you are ugly. Speaking of the video that I'm watching, it's not because. The question is, how much surgery do I have to get before people on the internet stop calling me ugly? The answer is, there is no such amount. And because people will always call you ugly, even if you are beautiful.
Significant backlash from conservatives with
So
pundits
just
demanding
forget it.
she be removed from the film. Even though there was
There's
absolutely
it.
no chance of them removing her from the film because it was already completed, this was just one more controversy that Disney could ill afford given the movie's impending
Gypsy Ray
release.
says,
Especially
why
since
was
they
she
were
in the bath
already
also?
dealing with the effects of an
Good
ongoing
question.
political shitstorm related to the current
We may
Israel-Palestine
never know.
conflict. A video
Because
like this
actors
just
are
really
forced
not
to
the
do
place
really,
to
really
discuss the
strange
Gaza
things.
situation in detail, and I also don't really feel knowledgeable enough to be able to add anything valuable to that conversation. Suffice to say that it's a horrible clusterfuck in which thousands of innocent people have already been hurt or killed, and that the sooner it's over, the better. And it's relevant to Snow White because
Right,
of
the way a
indirect
Batwing
involvement
works.
of its lead actresses.
That
Godot and Ziegler both received backlash for their positions on this highly divisive conflict, and Snow White was caught in the middle, with people on both sides being unhappy and
different
having a
than
reason
other
to deny
wings.
Disney their money.
הייתי בטוחה שהסרט הזה הולך להצליח בענק. ואז קרה השבעה באוקטובר. מה שקורה, ואת יודעת, וזה קורה מאוד 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 בכל מיני תעשיות, וגם בהוליווד, מופעל המון לחץ על סלבריטאים, על שחקנים, על יוצרים, להעלות דברים נגד ישראל. והתאכזבתי שהסרט הושפע מזה מאוד. ולא הצליח בקופות.
whatever is happening in this clip is horrifically awkward.
With fans interpreting Ziegler's lack of mention of Godot in social media posts about the movie as evidence. And Godot's official Twitter account reposted a message condemning Ziegler before swiftly unreposting it. Although we don't know if she runs this account herself, but I think it's highly unlikely. People love this kind of juicy gossip, and they were quick to overspeculate or simply make shit up.
Do you think you could draw a puppy with a bone, as long as you wanna?
2025 Oscars, and there is no evidence that they
You
ever
can
crashed
have
during
AI
production.
make it.
And they got along well, according to inside sources, even if this never
The question
turned
is,
into a
why
genuine
would
friendship.
I?
ממש נהניתי לצלם את הסרט הזה. ממש. נהניתי... נהניתי אפילו לעבוד עם רייצ'ל זגלר.
Surprisingly harder than you may think to draw a cute puppy.
True.
But things did apparently get more tense as the movie got closer to release, with Ziegler making seemingly dismissive comments about Godot. And they do
I'm
appear
still
to be
looking
less
at bat
warm towards each other
photos.
in later interviews when compared to previous ones. And what publicity they did for the movie was conducted separately from each other in a way that was extremely obvious. More concerning, though, was the fact that Godot reportedly received a huge spike in death threats after Ziegler's post, which led to Disney hiring more security for Godot, with one insider saying, "She didn't understand the repercussions of her actions as far as what that
Gypsy
meant
Ray
for the
says,
film, for gals,
bats are my
for
favorite
anyone."
animals.
Although this Variety article was the subject of its own criticism,
Isn't it?
being accused of being part of a
Oh,
smear
why?
campaign against Ziegler. Due to all this controversy, Disney decided not to have a traditional red carpet premiere, drastically scaling back their event in LA. With no press invited, only a few photographers, and the only interviewers being those employed by Disney themselves. And according to the New York Times, the entrance to the theatre was hidden from public view by tall hedges on movable platforms, and a customary UK premiere was not even held at all.
Yeah,
This was clearly an attempt to
is
avoid
that
awkward
cute?
questions and more bad publicity. A viewpoint taken by
Oh, why do you think they're cute?
Martin Kleber. Again, according to insiders, Ziegler and Godot were mostly kept apart, and Ziegler was sat 2 rows ahead of Godot during the screening, possibly as a way of avoiding any tensions flaring up. The actual premiere eventually took place in Spain on March 12th of this year, ahead of the film's wider release the following week. And after all this time, after starting development more than 9 years ago, after all of these delays and disasters and controversies, did the movie find redemption upon release?
Gypsy Ray says, their lil noses and big ears, and with fruit bats their eyes.
Yeah, I do love the ones that look more like boxes, which I guess are the fruit bats, than the ones that look, well, horrific. But they all have their uses in the world.
Meanwhile, the movie was immediately review bombed to all hell. It very quickly became one of the worst rated movies of all time on IMDb, rated more poorly than The Room, Dragon Ball Evolution, and all of the Human Centipede films, which led to IMDb adding an unusual activity disclaimer to the ratings page. Some of this was down to internet trolls, but it was also a combination of the numerous controversies, criticism of Ziegler personally,
Gypsy Ray
and the
says,
film's poor quality.
what kind of music do you like?
Because make no mistake, the Snow White remake is bad.
I like weebcore, a lot of nerdcore, depending on who you are, depending on how you say it.
So, let's talk about that.
I like anything that's really tells a story, emotional, and
Good enough to make up for all the fuss.
on most days very
Even without all the
musical
other stuff
based.
going on, the movie is plagued with weird,
as in
detrimental
like
creative decisions.
Hamilton and Epic the Odyssey, those types of songs where you sing along and you feel like suddenly taking up a sword and murdering people.
You know what? That's
I
unintentionally
love that
quite a
type of
good
music
metaphor.
where you want to
In addition,
scream
while I'm sure
along.
many people worked very hard on this
And then
film,
sometimes
there
you
are
just
many
like
signs of
songs that
creative
have
laziness and lack of attention to
a
detail.
message.
Not
But
noticing that
see,
Gal
Gypsy
Gadot
Ray
has
what's
a
says,
interesting
single
is
I love Hamilton so much.
you don't get addicted. Don't become a musical chick. But
everything looks flat,
I don't know, I have
uninspired, and
a
boring.
difficulty not
The movie
becoming
looks
just
very
some girl that
dry, if that
sings
makes sense.
Hamilton all day.
It's either undersaturated or oversaturated.
But
This leads
I mean,
to
it's just
everything
good
kind of
music.
blurring into everything
It just
else and
be
not
good
looking as
music.
distinct as
Like
they
what
ought
can I
to.
say?
And you can see this lack of
I like
contrast
what's
distinctly
good and
when
it's
you view it
good,
in grayscale.
and if I listen to it all day, well, it's just kind of life. But no, I have not listened to Hamilton in a hot minute.
And it messes with your sense of depth perception. For
See,
instance,
if I
here the
wrapped the
animals are
wing
same distance
around,
away from the
that would
focal
be
point as
dope.
the actor, but
That would
they
be
look
so
more
dope.
Gypsy Ray says,
I
focused in a
can't.
way that makes
have
no
you ever
sense.
listened to Lemon Demon?
And here the edges of
No,
the
I have
background
no
and
idea what that
foreground are
is. Is
blurry,
that a
and yet the large
band?
log stays at
Or
almost the same level of clarity.
like,
And it's
imagine
even
if I
more
could
obvious when it affects a
do.
character's head or feet. This isn't a camera trick. There was a deliberate creative decision that somebody made to add this in post-production. It might have been to draw the viewer's attention to the center of the screen, but good cinematography uses framing techniques to direct the audience's focus towards the intended object. Here it's just lazy, and this filter seems like an attempt to compensate for how the piss-poor cinematography makes the shots look so indistinct. They also try to use it to paint mood into the film because they failed to do so organically. But another credible reason for this, and for why the shots look so boring, the colours look so flat, and the lighting is so bad, is because this makes it much easier to add the CGI elements to the real footage, and hide any flaws when doing the compositing. And there is some quite lazy compositing here, although you might not notice it unless you're paying close attention. If this were a low-budget indie movie, I'd forgive it for mistakes like this, and for the VFX tricks they've employed to get away with being lazy or time-constrained. But this is Disney we're talking about. But I don't necessarily blame the VFX artist for this, because it is a
Gypsy Ray
direction
says,
problem. And the
it's a
direction
guy
was
I think K,
bad,
but his
frankly.
music is very easily
Okay, here's one
trappable into her
example.
head.
The animals look quite detailed, but they also don't look real, so they actually appear more artificial and off-putting than if they'd been rendered in a more cartoony style.
You won't hear it, because on YouTube, I cannot play music, as you can imagine.
Gypsy Ray says, I'll be right back.
Alright. Alright, the wing suddenly makes no less sense. Because logic, right? So I would have to bring it up.
Gypsy Ray says. Bye, K.
Welcome back. I'm listening to a touch tone telephone right now. It's really look, it is purely very interesting. It's not the type of song I would like put on planning to sing along, but I could imagine, you know, putting it on the car radio and just bopping. I can sing along to it,
Patrick
but I can
says,
bop it.
YouTube chat check.
Know what I mean?
Gypsy Ray says. Yeah.
Like, what? Where do these things fucking start? Like, maybe they both start right here. This one's going down. Maybe maybe even more? More like this?
Gypsy Ray says. I think I gotta go now, but I really like your art and I subbed. Smiley face.
I really appreciate you stopping by and chatting with me. And I hope you come back. Have a good day with whatever you may be doing.
Gypsy Ray says. Adios.
Adios. Las Vegas. There's some word for like see you next time or something, right?
God gnome looking motherfuckers. It seems like they took Dinklage's comments very seriously and decided to make the dwarves look as unreal as possible, with these massive heads that make them look like they're playing Big Head mode in one of those classic shooters. And they aren't nearly as visually distinct as their animated versions. Making them look like PS1 Hagrid would have been an improvement, honestly. In addition, there's some visuals that just do not have the same impact when you render them in realistic graphics as opposed to hand-drawn animation. Just one example of this are the shots of the witch dipping the apple in poison. The original scene simply looks so much better. I will say, I do appreciate the use of practical effects for the witch, and I think the transition from the evil queen to the old hag was well done, but that's the most I'm willing to compliment the movie's visuals. And add to that the issue of everything looking too clean. The clothes and sets look too neat and machine-made. This doesn't look like a real place or even a well-thought-out fantasy realm. It looks like an exhibit at Disneyland. And it's not like Disney haven't put more effort into the environmental design in other movies that they've made. These sets look so cheap and lazy, and the costumes and props look so bad. Snow White's dress looks cheaper than cosplays I've seen online. It does not suit her at all, and it stays in perfect condition even after everything she goes through, which is somewhat of a pet peeve of mine. The love interest's hair is too perfectly groomed and his clothes look far too modern. They remind me of that god-awful Robin Hood movie. The evil queen's outfits look unintentionally ridiculous, and her hair makes her look like Gary Oldman's Dracula. And while the magic mirror doesn't look too bad, the one from Shrek somehow looks better. This overly clean and simplistic approach contributes not only towards making the movie's style indistinct and thus unremarkable, but also towards making the movie look so artificial, even for a movie about CGI dwarves. But it's actually worse than that. Because of all this, the film exists in that weird, uncanny valley between fiction and reality which is discomforting to look at. No joke, watching this movie made me feel tired and disoriented because it was so hard to focus on anything, and because the visual effects made the shots look so unreal. There's a difference between bad films and films that are bad to watch, and Snow White is both. It's no exaggeration to call this an assault on the senses, and that's without mentioning the occasional bad YouTube levels of editing. You'll never convince me that this movie justified the amount of money that was spent on it, even with the reshoots. You can't just employ some pointless Dutch angles and pretend you're making something with artistic merit. And that's just how it looks. I haven't even talked about anything else yet. The songs are the opposite of energizing. They're soulless. And the lyrics are a joke, but not a funny one. I'm not going to play any of them because of copyright, but just look them up on YouTube if you don't believe me. The choreography is also nothing to write home about. See what other musicals do in this regard, and you'll see how wasted an opportunity this was. And the audio suffers from a similar artificiality problem as the visuals. For example, when the dwarves sing, they harmonise a little too well, and they don't take advantage of this cavernous environment and the effect that it would have on their voices. And then there's all the auto-tune. Bad auto-tune. The more aggressively you apply auto-tune, the more robotic the audio becomes, and it creates artifacts that ruin the sound. Cutthroat and cruel. The fact that so many of these artifacts remain in a film with this high a budget is inexcusable. And I just might like the view. Gal Gadot sounds fucking terrible, even with all the effects they've applied in post.
In fact, I find it quite amusing, telling me to play nice.
But bizarrely, they've even applied too much of it to Rachel
I feel
Zegler,
so uneducated. I can't even tell when it's auto-tune.
Using it on Godot I could understand, but this just seems like overkill. So the songs don't just sound bad, they sound wrong. This is at least partly due to the fact that they took the unusual approach of recording the vocal performances live, rather than the standard method of using a studio-recorded version during filming.
What's so wonderful about working with this particular group of people, they're really great at capturing our vocals live on the day.
It's not normal to record a whole musical live. Historically, musicals would have pre-recorded backing tracks.
Which isn't unheard of, but it was mostly unnecessary, didn't add anything to the experience, and seems to have created more audio problems that needed fixing in post-production. The cast were already dealing with a bad hand, but they proceeded to play it.
How does the other side of the wing look?
And flip the board. And shit on the board. Can't not talk about Ziegler first. And I swear, somebody important who worked on this movie did not like this woman. She wore a wig to try to replicate the hairstyle of the original Snow White, but it looks fucking terrible, even after they touched it up using CGI during reshoots, because even they realised how bad it looked. The comparisons to Lord Farquaad were as inevitable as they were accurate.
A new hairdo, Snow White hairdo. We cut it all off.
They made her cut her hair for this? Was it really that hard to find an appropriate hairstyle for this woman?
When it came to cutting my hair off, I just trusted Nadia so much. She has such a deep understanding for what makes a character beautiful, and it reflects in all of the hair and makeup.
Well, that was a fucking lie. Like, how am I supposed to not laugh at her when it looks like she's wearing Chewbacca's ballsack? In addition, they've also slapped an overly aggressive beauty filter on her. It only seems to be applied when she's singing, but it creates this temporal blur around her mouth. It makes her mouth look far larger than normal and results in the top and lower halves of her face not matching. It's really uncanny to look at, almost AI-esque. They don't do this with the other characters, just her, and I don't understand it. If you told me this was a fake post made to make her look bad, I'd believe it. Speaking of her face, it seems like she didn't know what to do with it. Her facial expressions are often bizarre and inappropriate. It makes her look like she has the Hasberg jaw, and it was widely mocked on social media. But here's the thing, she's not entirely to blame for this, because while they were filming, nobody corrected her on it. They looked at this and said, yes, good job, more of this please. But it does make it difficult to take her seriously. At the same time, I saw critics praising her performance, which made me scratch my head because she's really nothing special in this. Even if they hadn't gone out of their way to make her look terrible, she doesn't have the acting ability or charisma to be the leading lady that they wanted her to be, and it seems like she's compensating for this by frequently overacting, like she's in a pantomime. Although, in fairness, she's far from the only one that does this. Gal Gadot definitely lives up to her reputation.
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest of them all? No! Are you against me too? Are you? Yes or no?
Some producer must have really wanted to drink her bathwater, man, because I'm at a loss to otherwise explain why she was cast. It's funny how the animated version of the Queen is so much more animated than her, at least when she isn't overdoing it. She actually gives a better performance after she transforms into the old hag, but even here they kind of mess it up. Her voice sounds too youthful.
But what of the danger? Oh, you love him.
But here's the thing, believe it or not, she's not even the worst actor in this movie. In fact, everyone is mediocre to shit. But even if they weren't, the material they're working with is just awful.
I think it's time for Snow White tonight to have a little talk.
How was the screenwriter a professor of writing at multiple universities? Jesus Christ! I hope those kids got their money back. It's been a long time since I've seen a mainstream movie release with this many huge plot holes, and I've expressed my feelings about those before. I can say without exaggeration that every character in this movie is a complete fucking idiot. Seriously, the only way this plot can function as it does is to assume that every single character, without exception, is a brain-damaged moron. Because logic just does not exist in this world, nor does it exist in these characters' brains. And they think that we, the audience, are a bunch of idiots. Which is also why they've made Snow White that kind of safe boring that makes movies so unappetizing. And yet they expect us to swallow it and be grateful little consumers. And I cannot overemphasize how utterly boring this movie is.
You can either make the outside of the wing white or blue. And I think I'm gonna go with white. I don't know how that makes any sense, like, biologically, but we're just gonna have to go with it.
Good king and queen, Snow White is born, everyone loves her, life is good, blah blah blah. Queenie dies, Gal Gadot comes into the picture, she does magic, the king goes awooga, and she becomes the stepmom. She has the magic mirror, which apparently can only answer one question. Who's the fairest of them all?
Of all the women reckoned fair, your beauty is beyond compare.
Remember this, it's going to be important later. She warns the king of a false threat to the kingdom, so he goes off with some soldiers and doesn't come back. But no one knows what happened. Did none of the soldiers come back? Did they not send
My king doesn't come back, I'm gonna go fucking find him.
But the queen takes over, steals the riches of the kingdom for herself, and makes Snow White a servant, imprisoning her in the castle. And everyone just kind of goes along with it.
As the years passed, the people nearly forgot there ever was a princess named Snow White.
What do you mean they nearly forgot? They can see her through the fucking gate. And people work at the palace?
No, it's like the Frozen gates,
She
alright?
was in the middle of all these crowds, and
Don't
what,
see the
no one
princesses.
recognizes her? When a monarch is overthrown like this, the opposition to it almost always makes the true heir the focus of their resistance efforts. So I'm sorry, the idea that everyone nearly forgot about her and did nothing is just fucking ridiculous. Snow White also seems to have some form of Stockholm syndrome because she never attempts to sneak out of the palace even once. A few years later, she meets our dashingly handsome future love interest. Yeah, I gagged too. Who has snuck into the castle to steal some potatoes. I feel like his priorities are somewhat out of order here.
Snow White hasn't been seen or heard from in many years.
Again, people on the outside can see her through the gate. It's not like she's in solitary confinement, for fuck's sake. Snow White comes across as incredibly naive. She thinks that if she tells the queen about the people's hunger, she'll do something about it. During all those years in which the Queen did all these evil things, Snow White has somehow not worked out that the very obviously evil woman is in fact evil. The Queen justifies why she refuses to share the wealth with the people.
Pies are luxuries. They don't need luxuries. One is weak, useless, fragile. The other, hard, unyielding, everlasting, flawless. My subjects don't want a flower. They want a diamond.
She has all the makings of a future Tory Prime Minister. Maggie Thatcher would be proud. After the thief gets arrested with all his potatoes, he admits that he's the leader of a group of bandits who fight in the name of the king. Maybe instead of stealing a few potatoes, he could have had a bit more ambition? Like dealing with the source
Patrick
of the
says,
problem? The Queen
YouTube
orders him
chat
to
check.
be tortured. Snow White pleads for mercy, so the Queen gives her a bitch please look.
My father would show mercy.
You just heard everything she just said, right? How do you not realise who you're talking to? So she has him bound to the castle gates to freeze to death and calls Snow White a little bitch who'll never amount to anything. Snow White sings a song and it takes the guards that long to escort him down there. They don't even keep watch over him, so she is easily able to untie him. Brain dead or totally absent security is going to be a recurring theme. And it's at this point that the magic mirror tells the Queen that Snow White is now the fairest in the land.
Nothing can hide her gentle grace, for I see she is more fair than thee.
Remember this, it's going to be important later. This of course pisses off the Queen immensely, so she orders the huntsman to take Snow White to the forest and do the heart-cutting
Yeah,
thing.
his eyes were never fucking
Snow White doesn't
revealed.
question
What
why
color
she's
should
suddenly
they
being let
be?
out of the castle after years of being a prisoner. And this scene is
Red?
just so underwhelming. It lacks any of the creepiness and dramatic impact of
Gold.
the animated version, which is
Those are just
so
the
much more
obvious choices.
terrifying and emotive.
Why?
Oh my god, you cannot be this fucking stupid. This is who we're supposed to root for? So she runs into the dark forest, meets some friendly animals, and gets led to the dwarves' cottage. I know that she does this in the original, but I still find it kind of funny that she's breaking and entering and making herself at home. She also talks to animals a lot less in this film. Maybe they thought it would make her look schizophrenic. Eventually, we're introduced to the not dwarves. They're totally not dwarves, guys. They're not dwarves. Trust us on this one. Who have magical gem-finding powers that are never used again or become relevant. Because of course they do. They try to do the same sort of slapstick comedy that characterized the dwarves in the animated version, but it just doesn't work because it doesn't translate well to this style of motion-captured animation. The physicality just isn't the same, and the bland colour palette really doesn't help. Snow White freaks out at being woken up, but doesn't seem at all fazed about meeting non-human magical creatures for the first time. In fact, their status as the only non-humans in this realm is never brought up. Ever. Oh, here's another difference. Animated Snow White saw the state of the house and decided to clean it in order to help out its owners, who she assumed were children. This Snow White does absolutely nothing of the sort. And instead of offering to cook and clean for them in return for shelter, which is a pretty sweet deal all round, this Snow White teaches them to clean for themselves. Which I guess is fine, but she doesn't do anything herself to help. She's way more of a parasite than cartoon Snow White ever was. How exactly is this empowering? Although, in fairness, the not-dwarves do let her stay for one night because the Queen tried to kill her. But she could have at least offered to earn her keep, considering that she broke into their house. Also, these dwarves have been living together for 274 years by their own admission. And if they were this messy and incompetent, the house would be a complete shithole, a kind of hoarder-style situation. And if they argue this much, I'm surprised they haven't killed each other by now. The animated dwarves only really argued with Grumpy, and that's because he was an asshole.
The longer I stay here with you, the more danger I put you in.
At last. Goodbye.
You know what? I amend my earlier statement. Grumpy isn't a complete moron. He's the best character.
And I'm called Grumpy because I'm misunderstood.
This is the closest thing to a funny joke the movie offers. Oh, an animated Grumpy was just a full-blown misogynist? It's kind of funny to watch now.
She's a female, and all females is poison. They're full of wicked wiles.
But Snow White manages to change his mind and warm his cold dark heart, which is more of a justified impact on a character than this Snow White has. And given this movie's themes, this change is a huge wasted opportunity. But I guess they thought the sexism angle was a bit much. Pussies. Oh, and of course, Snow White is the one who teaches them to whistle, even though it's not been established before this point that this is something she knows how to do. Ugh. Meanwhile, the Queen realises she's been tricked and that the huntsman didn't put Snow White's heart in the box, but an apple. A fucking apple? Not even a pig heart like in the animated film, which would have at least made sense. They didn't even show the heart, so even if they thought it was a bit too intense for kids these days, there was still no reason to make this change. Did she not open the box to check when the huntsman came back? She couldn't smell the blood or tell the difference in weight and sound? How fucking empty-headed is she? And why did the huntsman go back to the palace after going through with this stupid plan? This is what I'm saying about everyone in the film being a dumbass. Snow White decides that her father might still be alive and that she needs to find him. In the woods, she runs into the thief, whose name is Jonathan, who hides her from the soldiers the Queen sent out to find her. And let's talk about him for a second, because I don't get him. He's supposedly the leader of a group of bandits who fight in the name of the king, right? But he seems incredibly dismissive of the idea that he might still be alive, nor does he seem to recognise the importance of his daughter and heir being alive and free from the Queen's grasp. He says things like, "Oh, your problems aren't mine," as if her existence means absolutely nothing to a resistance movement, and as if the Queen's rule hasn't directly caused all of the problems he's complaining about. And "You're finally learning that life's not fair," when her mum's dead, her dad's missing, and she was basically enslaved, and he knows all this? And "I'm partial to not being dead," as if he has any sense of self-preservation given that he broke into the evil Queen's palace to steal some fucking potatoes?
Oh, I'm so sorry to disappoint. You must have mistaken me for a knight in shining armor.
Yeah, I get that that's what they were going for, but I would expect this Flynn Rider knockoff to have at least some consistency.
Yeah, I do like the
Basically,
darker color
he's given
for
up.
the hoodies
How
thing.
endearing. Oh, and this is all after she saved his life earlier, which he seems to have completely
I'm still
forgotten
tempted to
about.
give him a boob window,
Ungrateful
though.
bastard. The rest of the bandits show up, and then the soldiers, and then there's a poorly choreographed fight. Snow White distracts the soldiers, who all run off after her.
Does it
leaving
make
none
any
to deal
logical
with the bandits who
sense?
just attack
I
them.
don't
Being as
know.
incompetent as they are, she easily outwits them, which causes Jonathan to change his mind about her. Oh no! Stop! Don't do it! No! So much for not getting saved by a man. They take him to the dwarves' house. Doc, despite admittedly not being a medical doctor, does some random shit to Jonathan, and that somehow cures him. This inexplicable MacGuffin is the only meaningful
Mark
contribution
Hollyfield
that the dwarves
says,
make to the
urgent,
story.
immediate broadcast
Apart from that,
requested
they
severe
could be removed,
thunderstorm
and it
watch
really
number
wouldn't affect
620,
anything.
NWS Storm
this could be
Prediction
put
Center
down to
Norman,
those
Oklahoma
reshoots they had
8:30
to do.
p.m. CDT Tuesday, September 23rd of Southwest and South Central Arkansas.
No, no.
Oh, shut up. Shut the fuck up. We all know what's going to happen because there's no original ideas here. Even though it's not primarily about their love story, they fall in love after only a few interactions, and this despite them lacking genuine chemistry. The soldiers come close to discovering the dwarves' cottage, so Jonathan lures them away. But because he's dumb, he gets caught in a trap and brought to the Queen. He's not very good at this whole banditry thing, is he?
See, unlike you, I know her.
I think you mean new.
Oh god, she's so bad. Why is she in this movie? Even the scene where the Queen makes the poisoned apple creates more problems. The antidote is true love's kiss, and it's heavily implied that she knows that Jonathan is Snow White's love interest. So if she killed him, Snow White would never wake up and she'd be scot-free. She's demonstrably okay with inflicting pain and murder, so there's no reason for her not to do this. But she doesn't, and the movie gives no reason why. The animated movie didn't have this issue because Snow White didn't have a love interest at that point.
Love's first kiss. No fear of that.
She really played herself here. The dwarves go off to work while Snow White prepares to leave to try to find her dad. Completely alone and with the soldiers still looking for her? Not sure what her plan was. Before she can, the Queen shows up disguised as an old hag. Appealing to the memory of her father, she convinces Snow White to eat the apple, which makes her fall into a coma. The issue is that while I can believe that animated Snow White is innocent enough to think that nothing untoward could happen, this makes this Snow White look really stupid, despite the movie trying to tell us otherwise. And why does she immediately take a bite? Just save it for the road and go, you've got shit to do. The dwarves come back and there's Big Sad, which I can't take seriously because of how disproportional their heads are. If they just ended the movie here, I'd have forgiven it its many trespasses. But alas, it was not to be.
You, my queen.
Ink Drop says.
Whoa.
Hello.
Welcome back,
Ink
Ink
Drop
Drop.
says. Gonna draw with you.
Meanwhile, Jonathan
Ah, that's nice.
escaped
But
from
you
the
gotta be
castle
drunk.
dungeon, which I'm only willing to accept because the castle security has been so demonstratively laughable. He goes to see the comatose Snow White, kisses her, and she wakes up. Which is not many degrees less problematic than the original scene was accused of being. If that part of the fairy tale was such an issue,
I'll
I don't
try to
think they
hang
would have kept this
on
at
so
all.
you could
Or maybe
draw.
they added this in during reshoots because Ziegler said his
Well,
character
I'm
was
not super
useless.
tired.
Snow White
Ink Drop
finally
says.
accepts that the queen killed
Drawing
her
the wife
father
and her sister
resolves
as
to retake
hyenas.
the kingdom. She
Ooh.
shows up at the castle town and
I don't know,
people rally
hyenas
behind
scare
her.
me.
I thought they forgot she
Hyenas are
existed.
very-
She's recognized now, but
very
not
mean.
before this. And again,
Yes.
where are the fucking guards?
But I hope they come out beautiful.
Like, if you want the throne, take it, you pussy.
I'm sure you can do
But of course, that's not her way. The guard sees her and the queen orders one of them to kill her, instead of doing it herself again? What is her fucking issue? At least establish one. So Snow White uses her ultimate superpower, kindness. It was established earlier that she's very good at remembering people's names.
So in reverse
What even
order,
is that?
sneezy, sleepy, happy, grumpy, dopey, doc.
And me steppies.
Well, this is the movie's Chekhov's gun, because she addresses the guards by name and reminds them of their lives before they were soldiers, and they all just decide to switch sides. Are you telling me that the only actually bad person in this kingdom is the queen? She couldn't find any other unscrupulous individuals to do her dirty work? These guys were okay with enforcing a tyrant's will, and they knew that Snow White was alive, but this is what changes their minds?
I don't
It's
hate
just
this drawing so
utterly
far.
unsatisfying. They do the whole I'm Spartacus thing, and then Snow White does a good Gollum
Finishing it
impression.
be a journey within itself, but at least I don't hate it at its current,
The Queen's attempt
you know,
to stab her with
status.
the magic dagger is interrupted by a timely crossbow bolt. This makes this the 4th time she's been saved by a man. Also, you've got magic? Just summon another knife, bitch! The dwarves snuck in through the underground docks, but now all they do is just stand there? If they'd gone in all guns blazing, I would have at least been able to laugh. The Queen storms back into the castle, and the guards, dwarves, and bandits do absolutely sod all to stop her. Fucking useless.
Famed is thy beauty, but it goes no further than the skin. For Snow White, beauty comes from deep within. She will
Now I just want to check out my toy house and see if there's anyone else that I can or
Now I'm
want
gonna
to
get a little
draw.
mad. All that stuff I told you to remember? Well, now it's important.
But I know I
This is the
should
basis
finish
on which
this
the magic
drawing.
mirror is judging fairness. It's a nice sentiment, but
If
holy
only
fuck,
to, you know,
this isn't just a plot hole. This is a
say that I
plot czar
can
bomber.
finish
First
drawings.
of all, this was never established. The mirror should have clarified this fucking years ago. Maybe she'd have tried being less evil? When Snow White demonstrates kindness by freeing Jonathan and giving him some bread, this is when the mirror decides that she is the fairer one. So before this, she had less inner beauty than the Queen? How does that make sense? And does this mean that apart from Snow White, every single person in this kingdom without any exceptions is a worse person than the evil Queen? What have these people done? Are they operating a child trafficking cartel or something? Either all this is true, or the mirror was always lying, in which case it can't be trusted anyway. It's a magic mirror that can only
Why
answer one
are all my
question. How does it
characters
fuck
so...
that up? I understand
Such
wanting
difficult
the message to be about inner
hairstyles.
beauty and stuff, cliche
It's almost
as it
like
is,
the
but
characters I
I'm fully
collect
convinced that they did not think through the consequences
have one
of
thing
this
in common.
change. The Queen gets mad and smashes the mirror, and this somehow kills her.
Not just one
Why?
thing, but
I don't know. There's nothing solid to go on, and at this
something
point,
that's
I
very
don't even
common between
care
them.
anymore. Snow White becomes the Queen, rules justly, etc., and now everyone wears white. It's like some Jonestown shit.
Hey, just eat the pies. What's the worst that could happen?
Excuse me, are y'all with the cult?
We're not a cult. We're an organization that promotes love.
Yeah, this is it.
This film is a mess. They kept talking about how much they understood how important the original was, how preciously it should be treated, and how much of an honor it was to work on this remake.
Its place in history is very
I'll say that I'll definitely finish this one day.
It's an honor that is unlike anything else. It's also a
I
lot
swear.
of responsibility because she's the original Disney princess.
The movie was made by a lot of people who really love Disney and a lot of people who really love
Before I
Snow
finish
White.
that one,
But in the
I
final
will
product,
quickly
that
start
didn't
a
come
new
across.
sketch.
It's ugly, boring, overly long, unfunny,
And I make it
sounds
unique
terrible,
somehow.
is acted terribly, and has atrocious writing. It lacks the style, impact, and technical innovation of its predecessor. Everything that was exciting and interesting about the original has been watered down to slop. They've managed to take what is a fairly simple story and make it bloated, worse, and make less sense. Like adding in all these extra characters, but none of them have any depth or flavor, and they're inconsequential to the plot.
I got
They could have
this
removed
bunny.
the bandits entirely and given all their bits to the dwarves.
And I
At least then there would have been
imagine
more scope
an
for developed
interesting
characters.
drawing
Not to mention all
using
these ridiculous plot points, terrible characterization, and muddled themes. Director Mark Webb talked about wanting to make the movie for his daughter, and it's clear that one of the major creative intentions was to inspire young girls to be leaders.
I think on a very simple personal level,
Alright,
I
well,
wanted to make a movie
I suddenly
for
have
my daughter.
a kind
And there
a
is
somewhat
some value in that,
mean
but there'd be even more value in
chibi
inspiring
image
them with a
in my
story
mind.
that's actually good, and in which the moral is properly conveyed. Snow White's final triumph feels so unearned, because becoming the leader she was always meant to be only works out because everyone else is a fucking idiot. Again, how is that in any way empowering? This film has nothing to recommend it
First
for.
step
It's not even the kind of
is
bad you
draw
can
a
laugh
carrot.
at. It's cinematic
Somehow.
waterboarding. You know, I think if they'd made a live-action remake
You know, I
of
got a
Snow White
full
and the
ass
Seven
big
Clever
carrot
Boys, a game that literally has
from
a
grocery store to
portrayal
make
of
my
a
bone
woman
broth
child,
soup.
that film
Oh,
would have
well,
been
to make
somehow
my
less
bone broth.
controversial than this
So
one.
instead of like
And
nicely
the craziest
chopped up
part is that
uniform
they went
carrots, I
through
got
all of
myself
these
a
controversies
big
for something
boy
that
carrot.
turned out to be this shit, and which lost them
And I just
so
shaved
much
it
money.
and then chopped it up.
Snow White bombed at the box office.
I don't know
being
if it's
one of the
sad or
worst
not, but I didn't
performing of
actually
Disney's
eat the
live-action
carrot
remakes
because, you
and
know,
was
it
set
just
to lose
got
Disney an
cooked for
estimated
hours and hours to
$115
become
million.
bone broth.
Although this estimate was based on
But
a
it did its
worldwide box
duty.
office figure which has still not been reached, so the actual loss is probably even higher. Seeing Ziegler watching the movie in an empty theatre feels depressingly ironic in this context.
Can I do the
Curiously, given
artist
some of the
thing of
controversies, the
drawing a
movie
shape
actually
in
overperformed
3D?
above expectations in more
Answer's
conservative
no.
US states. And box office analysts have claimed that the controversies
One day I
actually
will
had
go
little
through
impact on the
Drawbox
film's
and
performance,
learn
citing
how to
other issues such as the film's older source
not
material,
be a
its poor presentation,
crumbling
and its
failure.
failure to connect with a modern general audience. Snow White's dismal box office performance led to its early release to home streaming on Disney+, and other planned live-action remakes, notably that of Tangled, were put on hold due to its financial
Yeah,
disappointment.
please never
Memes
remake
about Ziegler
Tangled.
being the hero we don't
Tangled is
deserve
one
and
of my
putting an end to Disney's
favorite
live-action remakes
Disney
aged very
movies.
poorly, however, as Disney's next release, a live-action remake
Disney
of Lilo and
animations.
Stitch, which was also very
But
poorly received
personally,
by
just
fans
very
of
much
the
hate
original,
it.
has so far grossed
Well,
over
thing is, I hate every
$1
remake, and I don't watch a single
billion.
one, so I guess Disney really doesn't care what
Fucking
my
kidding
opinion
me?
is.
So absolutely nothing was learned. I wasn't intending to run defense for Rachel Ziegler because I also found her a bit annoying, but I do think the vitriol directed towards her was a bit overblown. Although she didn't help herself, didn't help the movie with her comments, and she just didn't come across very well. Her biggest problem was that she simply wasn't able to find the right balance between being outspoken about what she's passionate about and being professional enough not to alienate audiences and cause problems for the project she's starring in. Personally, I don't think it's the result of narcissism and entitlement, and more a result of being immature and lacking a filter. She acted like an idiot, but blaming her solely or entirely for the movie's failure is as ridiculous as it is untrue. She didn't write this movie, she wasn't responsible for its creative decisions, and the people that mattered were on board with it all. Even if she'd kept it professional, even if she'd been replaced entirely, the movie would have still been shit. It can't be blamed on wokeness either, as other films, including Disney's, that have been denounced as woke, have performed exceptionally well. Nor is it due to fewer people going to see movies in theatres, as Lilo and Stitch and also the Minecraft movie have made absolute bank since Snow White ended its run. The more research I did for this video, the more I found myself sympathising with Ziegler to at least some extent. I'm not saying she doesn't deserve criticism for some of the things that she's said and done, or for other dumb shit, because she absolutely does. But it is clear to me that her responsibility for this movie's failure has been grossly over-exaggerated. Sometimes by people who had a financial interest in doing so, and sometimes by people who wanted to deflect responsibility away from others who were involved. I don't know, man, like, criticism is one thing, but I feel like the whole thing just went way too far, you know? There was no one factor or one person responsible for the failure of Snow White. It was a complicated convergence of many factors, some of which were beyond anyone's control. Replace Ziegler and Godot and add in actual dwarf actors, and you'd still have a bad script. Improve the visual effects and the costumes, and the jokes still wouldn't be funny. Bring peace to the Middle East, and this movie would still be pointless and boring. The idea that there's no such thing as bad publicity has never actually been true, and never has it been more untrue than with Snow White, which is destined to be one of those films that's remembered more for the shitstorm surrounding it than for the movie itself. That is, if it's even remembered at all. Oh, and as a quick aside, I would like to thank Disney for giving me such good material to work with.
How do I do cross times?
And if nothing else, this might be a valuable lesson in the importance of knowing when to shut the fuck up.
Yeah, Disney magic.
Hey folks, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it. If you did, do consider becoming a supporter on Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member. You'll get early access to ad-free and uncensored versions of videos, as well as a mention here in the credits. Big thanks to the video sponsor Raycon, do check them out. Check out my merch store, join my public Discord server, and links to everything are down below. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.
The video game industry has been growing exponentially nearly every single year for 40 years straight. Well, it was until 2022 when everything began to crash and burn. Just today, as of recording, Ubisoft gained $720,000 in value, which would be amazing if they didn't lose $11 billion in value in just the last few years. To give you a visual demonstration of what that looks like, if this star is how much money they gained, this black hole is how much money they've lost. Except I lied. The black hole is 80 times larger than the star, while the money hole should be 15,000 times larger. 4 decades of hiring hidden talent and publishing landmark titles, only to plummet in both quality and reputation in only 4 years. And it's not just Ubisoft. Gaming as a whole is collapsing in on itself. Over the past few years, growth didn't just slow down, video games have actually been shrinking more and more, leading to worldwide higher-ups cutting funding.
Concept of video games shrinking is kind of ironic considering how much they're bloated, unnecessarily unoptimized, like unnecessarily high quote-unquote resolution and high graphical ability having
It's too fast a drop to be explained by one single cause, so maybe we should ask a different question. What happens when an industry whose success is designed around rampantly growing the number of users every year maxes out on how many new people they can grab? When you've dug hole after hole of pure gold for 40 years, but suddenly there's no more space to dig. Today, we're exploring the dramatic implosion of gaming studios around the world and how that may trickle down to even your favorite indie titles. How decades of growth created an impossible bubble where anything other than the line shooting up means record-breaking layoffs every year. And how a small studio might hope to break through in their own way amid sweeping changes and catastrophic economic conditions far outside their control. I know I set up a lot here, and I promise we'll get to it all, but video game struggling means my wallet is also struggling, so let me fulfill this contractual obligation. Remember that question about the well and digging hole after hole until there's no more space left to dig? If you answered to cannibalize yourself, digging as deep as you possibly can back into the very same well, charging all of your existing players more and more again and again, Congratulations are in order.
It's not
it might be in line for an
matching the
executive
concept of
position. This is
speaker
why
very
studios are
well.
pushing for more and more
Here, it probably needs to be
monetization is the
smaller.
leading question to ask
Wait, it's
throughout
just
this whole video.
her
And
leaning
hopefully
against
by
a
the end,
carrot
we'll
and
reach an
saying
answer
just fuck
together
off.
that's infinitely more satisfying
Logic?
than just
No.
saying they want more money, because of course
It
they
just
want
has to
more
look
money.
good.
We'll be returning to this question again at the very end. It's actually my favorite part of the video. If you only watch one part, I'd want you to watch that, because I know it's a winding road to get there. But
When should I
an
sleep?
hour-long video essay about video games,
Is
so
the
you knew what you were getting
question.
into. When
When
it comes to greed, players are very quick to point
like
at
30 more
Ubisoft
minutes
as
of
one of the
potential
key
time to do
contributors
that.
in the
Modric says,
downfall of the modern
YouTube
gaming
chat check.
industry. Much like EA, Ubisoft is a name so tarnished it's become automatic taboo. But it wasn't always that way. In fact, they were
Let's see.
celebrated as trailblazers in the industry alongside other renowned companies at the time like Blizzard and Bethesda, which is also funny now. I do want to say, I'm not trying to celebrate this downfall. Going from a $12 billion company in 2021 to a $1 billion company in 2025 is a staggering decline, and it means people far outside of the decision-making seats lose their jobs. Not to mention how the deterioration of a studio once on top of the world means a deterioration of things many of us hold dear. So I'm talking about this as an examination of the rapidly changing times we live in. Ubisoft's tale is one of stellar developers racing against lofty corporate objectives, and while it seems simple on the surface, the greater story goes far beyond this one company. Founded in 1984 as Guillermo, sorry, Informatique, and rebranding 2 years later to Ubisoft, the French company acted primarily as a video game distributor throughout the 80s, focusing mainly on small projects and local licenses. They were definitely not known for making hit titles. Things really picked up for Ubisoft when they took a chance on hiring a very young developer named Michel Ancel, who catapulted the company into global recognition with his flagship franchise Rayman in 1995. Keep this in the back of your mind. They took a risk, and the company thrived. With both critical acclaim and critical success now in their belt, Ubisoft expanded rapidly, opening dev studios in Montreal, Shanghai, and Germany. And this brand of rapid expansion was just a taste of what was to come. Each decade, Ubisoft seemed to reinvent themselves and continue pushing the envelope of the gaming industry. The early 2000s marked their next reinvention, acquiring the rights to Tom Clancy in 2000 and releasing Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell in 2002, an action stealth game frequently cited on lists containing the best video games, and followed up with sequels in 2004, 2005, 2006, 2010, and 2013. 1 year after Splinter Cell, Ubisoft released the 2003 E3 Game of the Year, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time, with sequels in 2004, 2005, and 2010. 2003 also marked the year of Michel Ancel's next project, Beyond Good and Evil, with a sequel in... actually, we'll get to that one. 2004, Far Cry 1, and 2007, their biggest hit yet, Assassin's Creed. A game so enticing, so different from anything out at the time, and Assassin's Creed 2 just a couple years later took everything that made the original great and
Assassin's Creed 1 was so interesting that even like I played it on my laptop, my old laptop, which died. Alright, died horrifically when you try to up the settings at all. Even I was like fascinated by Assassin's Creed 1. I managed to play Assassin's Creed 1, which similar to The Witcher, like the difference between the 1 and the 2 in those series is very grand. Like the first Witcher, like the way you play is so unintuitive to a modern gamer. I had to look up tutorials for everything. I didn't even know how to attack. I felt like I was learning a new language.
The 2010s would be yet
another
decade where the company would
great. It was
transform.
fun.
This decade would be the peak of Ubisoft. Michel Ancel returned to direct Rayman Origins in 2011 and Rayman Legends in 2013.
It's all kind of falling apart.
Platformers far surpassing the original.
I want to
With
blame my
Legends
sleepiness
specifically
on.
lauded by many as one of the best platformers of all time.
But see,
Far
but
Cry
the problem is
3 in
also I don't
2012 often considered
do
Ubisoft's greatest
any
game
of the
ever,
proper
blew the door down
steps.
for the rest of their open world games to walk through. Assassin's Creed Black Flag in 2013, Watch Dogs in 2014, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege in 2015, and The Division in 2016, which was the fastest selling new IP ever at the time. However, while it was their highest peak yet, the golden seeds Ubisoft planted with Far Cry and Assassin's Creed in the early 2010s would be the catalysts for their eventual downfall. It was clear open world domination had become the company's new MO in this new era, but this is also where the cracks started to form. Far Cry 4, while good, did not provide the same sequel caliber upgrade as Assassin's Creed 2 did compared to Assassin's Creed 1. Watch Dogs was riddled with game-breaking bugs, and The Division, despite that incredible launch, failed to fully live up to its massive open world scope. While the 2010s marked Ubisoft's greatest expansion and largest profits yet, it was also the era where the rapid release fatigue started to slowly reach not just the players, but the developers too. It wasn't understood by the general public at the time, but behind the scenes crunch, delayed releases, and diminishing returns with each and every sequel revealed a long-term unsustainability with their publishing model. A publishing model, mind you, that nearly every big studio was also using at the time. At some point, the line can't keep going up at the same pace, but when all of their systems require it to keep functioning, something is going to give. It would work incredibly for now, but in 5-10 years, maybe not. Make no mistake, Ubisoft was bigger than ever, but the once indomitable giant began to have its reputation slip. Amidst all of these problems taking place in the offices themselves, the company at this point clearly had grown to a point where the desires and wills of the few far outweighed the desires and the wills of the many. And the company saw the writing on the wall, recognizing that if game sales numbers weren't going to exponentially increase to match the exponential growth of the company, something else would have to in its stead. And not long after, they began formally introducing in-game sales, kicking off the modern live service era of Ubisoft as we know it. Microtransaction-riddled multiplayer experiences, online-only requirements for single-player games, and an ever-creeping increase in grindiness to incentivize time-saving purchases from their fanbase, the definition of a Ubisoft game began to change. What was once a compliment of high esteem referring to a quality industry-shaking release now meant the same thing you've been seeing for the past 5 years, but somehow more hollow. Just Dance was just the beginning. While follow-ups like Assassin's Creed Origins in 2017 and Assassin's Creed Odyssey in 2018 sought to dramatically expand the scope of the franchise, their receptions were mixed, with a common critique citing not only their numerous bugs and unfinished features, but how somehow this was still the same game 10 years later. Not only that, this once beloved action-adventure series now had microtransactions galore. Ubisoft started deliberately slowing the game down just enough so that a subsection of their players would get frustrated and open their wallets to spend even more on a time-saving resource pack. A strategy so blatant, most players were understandably frustrated and felt disrespected. This company clearly just saw them as moneybags. Sure,
Alright, well I saved this feeble attempt at a sketch.
It worked. Line must go up.
Now
So
the
they'll
stream will
find a way
end,
to make it go up.
and I
New
will
year,
go
new
to
release,
sleep
and if sales aren't
and
improving,
see what the
crunch the
future
devs,
holds.
charge players more, cut risky
I
titles,
don't know, I have
halt
no
investments in smaller devs. The line must go up.
But hopefully I
Because if
will
it starts
die
to waver,
tomorrow.
the investors start to get scared. And you can't have the investors
hopefully it'll
scared
be a very
because all
fun
of
time.
the executive jobs
Thank you
justify
very much for
their
stopping
own
by.
existence by justifying their existence.
And good night. As soon as I can press the button.